Happy Good Friday. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Thank you for watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. Over the next 2.5 hours, we're going to bring you the latest breaking news, developing stories, live interviews, extended interviews, and I don't want to waste any time because we need to get to some of these developing stories that we broke during our Live Impact newscast yesterday afternoon. Some major stories. We'll start off here in our area. So we continue to follow this tragic bus crash that happened on I-77. Let me read you the latest of what I have. And this crash backed up traffic for miles and for hours. But here's the tragic update that we got. The Chester County Coroner's Office said a 13-year-old boy from Lexington County, that's near the Columbia area, was killed in the bus crash in Chester County Thursday that involved a bus from Pine Ridge Middle School in Lexington County. The Chester County coroner told our sister station, our news content partner, News 19 WLTX in Columbia Friday morning, that the 8th grader was the victim in the crash that took place on Interstate 77. I'm reading this from their website. The child's name has not been released per the family's request. Now, Lexington 2 School District spokesperson said the incident happened again in Chester County as 3 buses with students from Pine Ridge Middle School were heading south on I-77 after a field trip. The district said a tire blew on one of the buses around mile marker 55, causing an accident. The South Carolina Highway Patrol said the bus went off to the right side of the road, hit a guardrail, and overturned. Officials initially said 3 adults and 35 students were on the bus involved in this crash, and the 2 other buses were not impacted, that's according to law enforcement officials. Now, the district later said about 35 students and 4 adults, including a few people from the other 2 buses, were taken for medical evaluation after those buses attempted to maneuver to avoid that crash. Again, a very tragic story that we brought here live here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus and carried over into our evening newscast. Now, tributes continue to pour in. There was a tribute this morning, a vigil this morning at Pine Ridge Middle School. Now, the school district is also offering its support, of course. Now, the Lexington 2 School District shared a statement with parents yesterday evening addressing the crash and announcing that the school would be open to families and staff today from 9 a.m. until about 12. So that just ended. So they were open for about 3 hours this morning. Counselors and social workers were available this morning. Now, support also would be available as students return from spring break on April 28th. It's just important to point out, this was the last day before students went on spring break. So again, a very tragic story, very sad story there. You see that bus flipped on its side. We brought it here, I want to say about 2:30 at first, initially, Carlene. And we got that video from one of our executive producers. He was riding in from work. He was in the northbound lane coming up, and you could see that bus flipped over on his side. And ever since then, we have been following the story, tracking the story. So again, as this story continues to develop, we will continue to bring you the latest information on that story. Our Anna King is following that story for us today, so we should learn more when it comes to this incident. All right, so we want to get now to another major story, developing story that we broke right here on Live Impact News. I just want to take you back. Just minutes before we went on the stream, we learned about this at the time, active shooter at Florida State University, the campus there. And over the course of 2.5 hours, we started to learn piece by piece what exactly happened. So let me get you the latest information. So this is the information we got so far coming out of Tallahassee, Florida. And this is according to NBC News. Officials have identified the son of a sheriff's deputy who classmates say harbored white supremacist views as a suspect in a Florida State University shooting that killed 2 people and wounded several others yesterday. Phoenix Eichner, who's 20 years old, accessed one of his mother's weapons, which is a handgun, that officials said was used in the shooting, and matched one of the firearms at the scene. That's according to Leon County Sheriff Walt McNeil. He said that during a news conference yesterday afternoon. He is believed to be a Florida State student, Phoenix Eigner, suspect in this case. Now, officials said that Eigner's mother had purchased her former service weapons and that it was her personal property at the time of the shooting. Police said the gunman also had a shotgun, but have not yet confirmed whether it was used in this shooting. A motive still has not been identified. Now, again, this is a story that we brought right here on Live Impact News and carried through the evening. This is a story that we continue to follow and track. It's like we kept getting bits of information until we were able to sort of figure out what exactly happened. We actually carried that news conference with law enforcement yesterday on the news at 4 o'clock. And there is a growing memorial on Florida State's campus right now. Are we ready for that shot? Okay, I'll take you to that shot. This is the memorial there on Florida State's campus. I can't even imagine what these kids and these families there in that community in Tallahassee are going through right now. The unthinkable happened there on campus. We spoke with a law student there at Florida State yesterday, here on Live Impact News, and he says, look, the student union where the shooting happened, it's a busy time of day. We're talking about it happened during the lunchtime hours. And you see those roses, those balloons, they continue to grow as students leave there, pay tribute to those folks who were killed and also the folks that are injured in this. So we want to shift now, stay here at Florida State. Right now, students demand action, holding a rally right there. And this is both Florida State University and FAMU, Florida A&M University combined. And just right? Yes. They're right next door. We showed you yesterday on that map how close they are. If you're not familiar with the area, they're right there beside each other. Let's listen in to this rally that's taking place.
Strangers, reach out to people you don't know. There are students who are impacted by this all across the nation. And this day, yesterday, was a reminder of why we need to act, why we need change.
And again, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We're watching a rally with Florida State students, Florida A&M University students demanding action following yesterday's shooting on Florida State's campus. And right now, we are awaiting a news conference at the hospital there in Tallahassee in just about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. And so we're keeping an eye on when that press conference starts. And when it does start, we want to bring it to you live here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. But for now, let's take another listen in to this rally that's happening between FSU students and FAMU students.
And we'll keep you all posted. Thank you so much.
A lot of you all know me on campus. Now you know that I am the president of the FAMU chapter of Students Demand Action. So please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you would like to spread more awareness or get more information about our org and what we can do. And I know we've talked a lot about demanding action today, but if you reach out to me directly, I can tell you exactly how to get involved. We have a national and state headquarters that gives us resources, that gives us workshops, that gives us everything that we need to educate the community. So, with that being said, I would like to thank everyone for coming out. And also, we have candles, and I know people have brought candles and flowers, so we will take the last few minutes of our meeting here today to light those candles in remembrance of those who have passed, and also in honor of those who are affected by this tragedy. Thank you. We will also have a prayer from Mr. Gatt.
All of you, take a moment with me, please. Close your eyes and bow your head. Father God, we thank you. We thank you for the mercy that you've had upon us today, and for the mission that you've put upon our hearts to gather here together, to find peace within comfort within each other. Father, thank you for all of the faces whom never seen one before, who will find comfort and solace in them today. Father, please continue to protect the families that await their loved ones within hospitals. And Father, the two souls that have joined you, please, as they look at us now, allow them to feel peace as we think of them and continue to fight for the cause. Father, we thank you, and humbly we ask you to continue to cover us as we continue to persevere forward. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody with the candle, please raise it in the air. If you can't light it, we understand that. But hold it high so they can see it. We'll come around with the lighter. The wind will probably blow it out, so let it be seen. And those of you that don't have a candle, your presence is more than enough.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Right now, you're watching a Students Demand Action rally right now happening with FSU and FAMU students. Right now, we're waiting a press conference at the hospital there in Tallahassee, waiting to get updates on the victims of yesterday's shooting on FSU's campus. But for right now, we want to go over to Washington, D.C., where right now, happening live, Dr. Oz is being sworn in for Medicare Medicaid administrator. Let's take a listen in.
For you. And I'll give you a couple examples. Mr. President, these are ones that you may want to use in some of your future conversations. Almost 250,000 people, American citizens, were fraudulently enrolled without their knowledge in exchange programs by brokers who were unscrupulous, stealing from the U.S. government by pretending these people were on programs they never told them about. Tens of millions of dollars, Mr. President, are being spent on illegal immigrants receiving Medicaid in California, and they're pushing the bill to us. Should we stop that? Yes. I think so. That will not continue. We're spending about $1 billion on Medicaid programs for dual state eligible patients, which means you live in one state, but the system thinks you're another state, or maybe a third state, and we're paying all 3 states for services you're not getting because you don't live in 3 states all at once. And finally, and this one really bothers me, there are states who are using Medicaid dollars for people who are vulnerable are being used for non-medical purposes. For example, public labor unions are getting child care through some of this money. That doesn't make sense to me. Housekeeping, I wish I could get that for my home. There's a big problem with student loan repayments taking place with Medicaid dollars. That's not where it should be used. And we are paying for DEI programs. I could go on, but these are all programs, Mr. President, that we have created a war room at CMS to go after, to catch the fraud in real time before the money leaves the federal coffers. So we have the money to reinvest in healthcare to make it even stronger than it's been before. Together, we're going to make the care better. We're going to make the outcomes improve, and we're going to make sure that America can actually be the healthiest country that could ever possibly be. We'll make America healthy again. God bless you both, sir.
Any questions for us? Okay.
Mr. President, Marco Rubio said...
Easy. Go ahead.
Secretary Rubio said that the U.S. will have to figure out whether a deal can be done between Russia and Ukraine in a matter of days, or you will just move on.
Yeah, very shortly.
How many days is that?
No specific number of days, but quickly. We want to get it done. We're talking about here people dying. We're talking about over there people are dying also, like on average 2,500 young people, soldiers. They're not from America. They're not from anywhere else other than Ukraine and Russia. But we want to save these lives. So it's 2,500 a week are being killed in battle. It's a vicious battle with the best equipment, the best everything, and it is brutal. 2,500 young people a week. Some of them not so young, actually. They're getting older. They're getting older by the month. But 2,500 a week, and we're going to get it stopped ideally. Now, if for some reason one of the two parties makes it very difficult, we're just going to say you're foolish, you're fools, you're horrible people, and we're going to just take a pass. But hopefully we won't have to do that. And Marco's right in saying it. We want to see it end. Think of it. Every day, a lot of people are being killed as we talk about, as they play games. So we're not gonna take that, and we'll see. I think we have a good chance of solving the problem, however. Yeah.
Are you prepared to walk away completely from these efforts and these talks?
Well, I don't want to say that, but we want to see it end. We want to see it end, yeah.
Is Vladimir Putin stalling, in your view, Mr. President?
I hope not. I'm going to let you know about that soon if he is, but I hope not. He's got a big force out there, big force. It's a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I was president. That's a war, and it didn't happen for 4 years. That's a war that should have never happened. October 7th, Israel would have never happened. Iran was broke, and now we'll see what happens with Iran. We have a lot of them out there. We have a lot of things that we're working on right now that shouldn't have happened. None of it. Ukraine would have never happened with Russia. October 7th would have never happened, so you wouldn't have had all the problems in the Middle East. The Afghanistan embarrassment, probably the most embarrassing day in the history of our country, would have never happened. Inflation would have never happened. By the way, prices are down. Groceries are down. Eggs, which you hit me so hard, I'll never forget the first week in office, they were screaming at me about eggs. I said, what's going on with eggs? They were doubling and tripling. I said, I just got here. They were up like double, triple, and you couldn't get any. They said, you won't have eggs for Easter. Well, you can have all the eggs you want. I'll tell you, Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture, did a great job. And the egg prices are down 87%. But nobody talks about that. You can have all the eggs you want. We have too many eggs. In fact, if anything, the prices are getting too low. So I just want to let you know, prices are down. Gasoline yesterday in 3 states hit $1.98 a gallon. And it looks like it's at a level that it hasn't seen since my days, my 4 years. So it's about I'd say maybe, I think we're going to be averaging $2.25 very soon. So I just want to let you know, though, because I keep hearing about prices and inflation. Prices are coming down, not going up. Only the fake news says they're going up. The only thing that's even are interest rates. And if we had a Fed chairman that understood what he was doing, interest rates would be coming down too. He should bring them down. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, what do you need to see from both sides in order to keep negotiations going? What do you want to see from Russia and Ukraine?
I have to see, my whole life has been one big negotiation, and I know when people are playing us, and I know when they're not, and I have to see an enthusiasm to want to end it. And I think I see that enthusiasm. I think I see it from both sides.
Do you think Russia's
But you're
playing
going to
you?
know soon.
Do you think Russia's playing you?
No, nobody's playing me. I'm trying to help. This was Biden's war, by the way. By me getting involved, they'll say, oh, it's Trump. This is not Trump's war. This is Biden. This is a war that should have never happened. Okay? Think of it. Those cities are crushed and crashed, and all those beautiful steeples, the most beautiful in the world, actually considered the most beautiful in the world, most of them are now smashed to smithereens, as they say, and lying on the ground in a million pieces. Those towns are crushed, the whole place. It's so horrible. And millions of people are dead, far more than you think. That's one thing you're going to get out of this war. You're going to find out that your estimates are far lower than, it's far worse than people think. Nobody's playing anybody. We are going to see if we can get it done. I think we have a really good chance of getting it done, and it's coming to a head right now.
If you support Ukraine militarily, if you do decide to move on or take a pass, Mr. President, would you then continue to support Ukraine militarily?
Well, I'm not going to say that because I think we're going to get it done.
There's a group of Venezuelan men down in Texas who have been alerted that they are soon going to be deported under the Alien Enemies Act. Have you authorized that operation?
I
And
don't know
where are they
about the
going to
group
go?
you're talking about, but if they're bad people, I would certainly authorize it, yeah. You know, I won an election in a landslide. We won all 7 swing states. We won by millions of votes. We won 2,750 districts to 505 districts. 2,750 to 505. That's why the map, when you look at it, is all red. And one of the biggest reason, I think the biggest single reason, actually, I'd like to say it's because of this, because I think they're going to come up with things that are incredible, but probably the biggest reason was because of the border and because of illegal immigration. And the people of this country want those people out. Because what Biden did, and I don't know if he did it, I'm not even sure he knows what the hell he was doing, but what his people did, representing him, was allow millions and millions of people from jails, from prisons all over the world, people from mental institutions and insane asylums, gang members, drug dealers, pouring into our place. And you know what? Our people voted for me to get them out. They want them out. They want them out. And we've done a hell of a job. And by the way, Ecuador and various places, but El Salvador, we've been helped by a lot of other states where they're helping us, actually. Because you couldn't, look, what this man was thinking when they allowed open borders and people to come in, if you look at Venezuela, their crime is down by 72%. You know why? They took all their criminals off the street. They took all their prisoners from jail. They took murders. 11,088 murderers were released into our country. Bad things are going to happen. Bad things. And we're getting them out. And that's why I was elected. A judge wasn't elected to do that. I was elected to do that. And we're doing it in record fashion. We have the safest border, the most secure border we've ever had. See the Declaration of Independence? You should all read that before you leave. That's the real deal. You should all read it before you leave. Yeah. Sir, go ahead, please.
Photos have emerged of Senator Van Hollen sipping what appears to be margaritas with Abrego Garcia down in El Salvador. Do you encourage other Democrats to fly down to El Salvador to meet with this illegal alien who's an accused wife beater?
I like this guy. See, now this is the kind of a reporter we like. There aren't enough of them. We got to get some more of them. But no, I appreciate that question. No, look, he's a fake. I know him. I know them all. They're all fake. And they have no interest in that prisoner. That prisoner's record is unbelievably bad. If you would go into the room, you might, if you would, Caroline, maybe go into the room and see if you can find that little slip. I wrote some things down. I don't know why you'd want to keep him, but we got a little biography of him.
Did you help set up that?
Not a very innocent guy.
Did you help set up that IRS?
Mr. President, in the spirit of Easter Sunday and
While we're on the subject, right?
Yes, of course.
So you're talking about Abrego Garcia, is that the one? Yeah. Is an illegal alien, MS-13 gang member and foreign terrorist. This comes out of the State Department and very legitimate sources. I mean, I assume, I'm just giving you what they handed to me, but this was supposed to be certified stuff. In 2019, Garcia was issued a deportation order. 2 separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13, which is a gang that may be even worse than Tren de Aragua, and maybe worse. They kill people with knives because it's more painful. Very famous for the knifing and killing of 2 young 16-year-old girls walking to school one day, and they sliced them up into little pieces and killed them. That's MS-13. And 2 separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13. When Garcia was originally arrested, he was wearing a sweatshirt with rolls of money pouring out, an MS-13 gang symbol that he was driving with 2 other known violent MS-13 gang members, 2 of the most violent members that we know of in the MS-13 gang of thugs. In 2022, Garcia was stopped by the Tennessee Highway Patrol and was found to be transporting 7 people from Texas to Maryland, and he had no driver's license. He was driving violently. In 2020 and 2021, Garcia's wife filed for a protective order from him and said he was violent and abusive and really scary, including allegations that he punched and scratched her on the eye, left her bleeding after throwing her laptop on the floor at her, ripped her shirt, and ripped off her shorts. He then grabbed her arm, leaving very severe marks. Garcia's wife also wrote in court, "At this point, I am afraid to be close to him. I just don't want to be close. I have multiple photos and videos how violent he can be and all of the bruises that he's left on me." She just couldn't get anywhere near him. This is the man that the Democrats are wanting us to fly back from El Salvador to be a happily ensconced member of the USA family. Isn't it a shame? And by the way, I've been hit pretty hard by fake shows, fake news, MSDNC in particular, where they talk about how evil I am, that this man would be thrown out of our country. This man is according to certified statements that we get, is a very violent person. And they want this man to be brought back into our country where he can be free and to stay as a happily Maryland, they call him the Maryland man. He's a Maryland father. No, this is a violent person. Who they don't talk about is that wonderful angel mom who lost her daughter, who had 5 beautiful children, and she was killed violently. And, she spoke, and she spoke unbelievably. I saw it, and the fake news didn't pick it up. She spoke. She was in tears. She's devastated. Her life is, essentially, she's told me her life is like over. But there was I think no stories. Isn't that true? No stories.
Yes, sir.
0 stories.
CNN,
Was the most emotional thing. Everybody that watched it, they couldn't believe it. The fake news refused to put it up.
Right.
So it's very sad. And yet they talk about this guy like he's an angel. See the angel up there? They think he's like that, like a little angel.
Do you encourage other Democrats to visit?
Would you be open to
It has
letting
no
Iran?
impact. The way she did it, look at it. No impact. It's just unbalanced. Would you do that? Well, go ahead. What I would
Sir,
do.
on Iran, would you be open to letting
Say
Iran
that?
keep some kind of civil nuclear program?
No
or would
impact
the entire
whatsoever.
program need to be dismantled?
I'm for stopping Iran very simply from having a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon.
So the
I
entire
want
program
Iran
dismantled?
to be great and prosperous and terrific. I stopped them once they were broke and they didn't have any money for Hamas. They didn't have any money for Hezbollah. There wouldn't have been an October 7th disaster. They were broke. They had no money, and they weren't spending it to terrorist organizations because they had none. When Biden came in, he took all the sanctions off. China wasn't allowed to buy. I said, if you buy, because they're their biggest customer, I said, you buy 1 barrel of oil, just 1 barrel of oil from Iran, and you can't do business in the United States. And by the way, we have nice conversations going with China just to intercede, It's really very good. But
Have you spoken with Xi?
with Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon, and if they have a nuclear weapon, you'll all be very unhappy. You'll all be very unhappy.
Have you spoken
your
with
life,
Xi?
your life,
Who is leading
your
those
life
trade
will be in
talks?
great danger. Yeah.
Mr. President.
Yeah.
Press out. Everybody out. Press out. Leave everything, guys. Go.
You want that?
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. That was a swearing in for Dr. Oz as Medicare administrator that just wrapped up there at the Oval Office. We want to go back now to Tallahassee, Florida, where right now this is a live look inside Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, the hospital there in Tallahassee, as we await a press conference regarding updates after yesterday's shooting at Florida State University. Right there on the campus at the near the student union area of campus. So we're going to bring you that live once that starts. It's set to start just minutes from now. But Before we get to that, we've covered and we brought you some very heavy stories yesterday. Between the shooting at Florida State, between the bus crash, that deadly bus crash on I-77 in Chester County. It's just a lot to process, to put into words, and with Live Impact News, we bring you the breaking stories, the developing stories, and on some days, being honest with you, it can be a lot. It can be a lot to deal with, especially as a viewer. It can be a lot to take in. So we also here on Live Impact News want to provide a resource for you. So we were able to have a mental health expert on the show this morning from 9 to 11, speaking with our very own Jay Monreal about dealing with sort of the mental impacts when it comes to these stories, these tragedies. So let's listen in on this interview.
We have our own resource here this morning right now from Novant clinical social worker Jaron Doby. Thank you for joining us this morning. Dealing with mental health. This is such a huge topic, but how timely that we have you in here this morning, because I want to talk about the importance. It was like everything happened and resources are going to be available on campus. Mm-hmm. How has mental health become a different conversation when it comes, and a priority, I should say, when it comes to traumatic events like this?
Gotcha. It's very important, and the great thing about it is that mental health is always a priority, and especially in situations like this, it is more important than ever to make sure that both that have directly experienced these things, or directly and indirectly, right, are able to make sure that they are seeking and getting support. It is very much so vital for the improvement, of course, overall of their mental health.
You know, it's one thing to experience it, be directly involved or right there at the scene and watch it, like some of the kids that might be on that bus. It's another to just in the peripheral to be a witness to it. And I'm talking about first responders who had to, you're seeing young kids there, as much as the work that they do is dealing with innocent victims, but just young lives like that. So first responders, as well as media folks. We were on this as soon as it happened yesterday, and we might be media people, but we do have compassion, and we feel for our community and the things that happen to people that we may not know, but we know that it's tragedy. So that witnessing trauma, hidden scars or wounds, if you will.
Yes.
What is that effect?
I mean, it affects us in so many different ways, and you hit the nail right on the head. We cannot forget that our media, our EMTs, our police officers, our families and friends, we're all human, and trauma is one of those things that can that can impact us, again, both directly and indirectly. It doesn't matter if it's something that directly happened to you. If you were there, if you're covering it, if you're talking about it, if you've learned about it, this is something that can affect us all, and we have to make sure that we're keeping a pulse on ourselves. And I do a lot of work with the media, and every time before I leave, I always ask them, hey, make sure that you take care of yourselves, right? Or are you taking care of yourself, rather, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's important work that you all.
And we want to put a pin in that conversation. We'll get back to that in just a moment. Happening live right now, we are getting an update. This is a press conference just underway at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare on the shooting yesterday that happened on the campus of Florida State University. Let's take a listen.
Love to the patients and families impacted by this tragedy, and to the larger FSU community, Dr. McCullough, who is with us today, administration, faculty, staff, and students. This has been an incredibly difficult time for our community. We're here today to provide an update on the medical response and care following the tragic incident that occurred on the FSU campus yesterday. Our goal is to be transparent, informative, and respectful to those impacted, while also protecting patient privacy. I want to take a moment to thank the first responders, law enforcement, and emergency personnel whose swift actions helped save lives. Our emergency room and trauma team are the very best. and their dedication to this community is really without equal. It's just one example. In the last 24 hours, we've had so many additional physicians, nurses, and other healthcare workers not on shift come in to volunteer their time to make sure that all our patients are getting the best possible care. Joining me today are key members of our medical team who have been directly involved in the response efforts. They'll share updates on patient conditions, they'll explain the medical protocols we have followed, and answer questions as appropriate. But first I want to invite Dr. Richard McCullough, President of FSU, to make a few brief remarks. Dr. McCullough.
Thank you very much. From the bottom of my heart, I just wanted to express our gratitude to the healthcare professionals who took care of our students who were shot and injured, and we just appreciate it so much. We can't say enough good things about Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. The hospital's done an amazing job in partnering with us throughout this tragedy, and we just appreciate so much the great job that everybody's done here. I just wanted to express that gratitude to all of you.
Dr. Brett Howard, I think will start us off.
Yes, so my name is Brett Howard. I'm one of the trauma and general surgeons here at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. We're going to go ahead and first introduce everybody. We'll start down at the end.
I'm Dr. Megan Morrow, one of the trauma and general surgeons here.
I'm Matthew Terzo, trauma and general surgery.
I'm Pat Pennington. I'm one of the general surgeons and trauma surgeons.
Melissa Amundsen, maxillofacial trauma.
Joey Gerard, general surgery.
Matthew Ramser, trauma and general surgery.
Jared Robertson, colorectal and general surgery.
Shelby Blank, general surgery and breast surgery.
Tracy Graham, emergency medicine.
So shortly before noon yesterday, we were notified of a event occurring on FSU campus. At that time, ER, surgery, and OR leadership, as well as our administration, responded to our emergency department and prepared to receive patients. Shortly thereafter, we began receiving patients. Those were gunshot wounds to extremities, chest, abdomen, all in rather stable condition. We activated certain resources that we have. This is unfortunately things that we train for, although do not expect to occur, but we were prepared and activated certain resources. We in total received 6 patients. All 6 were in stable condition upon arrival. 3 of them did go to the operating room and have since been out of the operating room. All 6 of them today are in stable condition, one which is in fair condition given a serious injury. We do feel that all will make a full recovery. 2 of them are possibly going home today, which we're extremely proud of. Overall, like I said, unfortunately we do have to prepare for these sort of events, and I can't speak enough for the team that's here and the team that's not here. Our community, especially our medical community, is extremely close. Everything from our law enforcement, our EMTs, firefighters, FSU, is a really big part of this hospital, and so that relationship, as well as the relationship between our nurses, our techs, our doctors, really is why things here went very smoothly, and I am extremely proud of all of them. We will open up for some questions. Otherwise, that's it.
I had a question. Marcus,
yes, sir.
I was with News Nation. In your line of business, time is everything. Can you talk about the work of the EMS responders getting patients to you quickly? And then can you, in any sort of way, lay out what happens when you receive a sort of I don't know if you're going to call it a mass incident, but some sort of influx of patients from one area, how that works?
Yes, we have systems in place, so we are communicating right away with law enforcement and EMS. The biggest part of this is you don't know how many patients you're going to receive. So we have so many surgeons up here today because they all came immediately to help. We have trauma surgeon that mostly does breast surgery now. We have a trauma surgeon that does mostly colorectal, but they all responded. But yeah, the hardest part of it all is you don't know how many patients you're going to get.
Dr. Howard, can you talk with respect to patient confidentiality about the types of injuries that you were able to treat? I mean, you have a variety of different surgeons up here from a variety of different disciplines. So what kind of injuries were you faced with?
Yeah, so Dr. Ramsey, if you want to give a little more detail on that.
We faced injuries that involved the torso and extremities, some of which require surgery, some of which can be managed without surgery. The response was very fast and the patients were relatively stable, so we were able to successfully treat all of the injuries, which involved abdominal surgical procedures and also facial surgery.
Are you able to tell us ages of any of the victims, any sort of demographic information?
No, sorry, we can't give you any of the specific age details or details related to the patients.
Were any of you able to talk to any of the patients and describe their attitude coming in? Obviously, they're shock and trauma, so what was that like?
Yeah, so they were all, and I've said this on other interviews, very, very brave. You know, there's the moment of shock, but all were able to talk to us, kind of give us, you know, how they're feeling, where they're feeling pain. But, you know, all of them were very clear-minded and able to converse with us.
Trying to get some clarity on the number. You said 6 total victims treated here. Does that include the suspect, or is he treated elsewhere? And were all of these gunshot victims?
Yeah, so 6 patients, that's all I can tell you.
Were they all gunshot victims?
Yes.
Doctor, can you clarify when you say fair and stable, is one worse than the other at this time?
So one we'll say is fair, mostly because of some of the symptoms related to the seriousness of their injury, but still should make a full recovery.
We keep hearing from students on campus that this has shattered their sense of safety and security. I'm wondering how you guys are doing after you've gone through what you went through. And also, I was here in 2014 for the mass shooting then. I'm wondering if any of you were here as well and what that's like to go through several mass shootings.
Dr. Blank?
I was. It was, you know, obviously a little more of a limited situation, but I think, you know, unfortunately, you know, traumatic violence is something that goes on, whether it's a few over the course of a weekend versus many compressed into a couple of hours. Obviously, this gets a lot more attention than the injuries and the gunshots that happen on any given weekend in any given community. So I think it's, you know, it's something unfortunately you don't ever want to be inured to, but I think that, you know, we were very lucky. Obviously, this was catastrophic, but given the numbers of students in that compressed area, the recipe for disaster is, you know, is very scary.
So were you here during 2014?
In 2014, you know, one of the students, all the students survived, but one did have he's paraplegic. You know, when you say all of the patients are expected to make full recovery, will I have lasting issues like that?
Again, I won't give any specifics at this time. I would say comparably, I expect all 6 to make full recoveries.
The 2 deceased, did they make it here at all? Was there any chance to, or was that an issue on just that?
No, we received 6 patients. Yeah.
What is the condition of the shooter? The condition of the shooter right now?
We have no comment on any sort of related to the shooter. Yeah, we have 6 patients here.
So that's the clarification. You can't say that you
Correct.
and you can't say that they're students or not.
Correct.
So you have 6 victims here of a mass shooting. How does it work with them being treated? Are they on the, say for instance, they don't have insurance, the victims, are they on the hook? Do they have to pay, or does the state pay, or how does that work?
We treat every patient the same. You know, all of that is handled separate from what we do. So yeah, again, we don't check insurance cards.
As far as the injuries are concerned and the caliber of weapon used, could you get into those details at all? Were there multiple types of calibers? I only say this because there was an eyewitness who told me they believe they heard 2 different types of guns used by the gunman.
Yeah, I don't have any specific information on that.
The patient was in fair condition. Was that the one who required facial surgery, or was
torso?
I can't speak to that, sorry.
Is there a patient that required facial surgery?
Yes.
What would you say you learned from that event? I mean, because you guys, I think every time something happens, I'm sure you guys regroup, talk about it, and then, try to implement, God forbid it happens again. What was this like for you guys?
I'll say our system worked. We at least do one simulation a year. Again, we were prepared. We always like to say we learned something from every sort of interaction and any sort of event. But if anything, I'm just proud of everybody. I think what speaks to it is the relationship we have with our entire staff, with our hospital, and just the importance of continuing to practice.
One simulation a year, is that table exercises, or do you have people wheel?
We do a full event.
What are the differences or similarities between reality and exercise?
Well, you can never replicate what just happened yesterday without living it. But we have all staff respond to it, everything from our blood bank to other personnel that are in other parts of the hospital, our administration. Everybody is involved in those simulations. But again, it doesn't complete. You don't get that anxiety, that the stress that you do with the real event.
Doctor, when you talk about injuries to the face and the torso, how fortunate are some of these victims to be able to walk away and make a full recovery?
Yeah, so definitely very fortunate. Dr. Amundsen is our oral maxillofacial surgeon, so I'll let her speak a little bit more without going into details related to that.
I'm sorry, what kind of question do you have about?
How fortunate are some of these victims to walk away being able to make a full recovery, even though they receive wounds to the face and the torso?
Yeah, fortunate. I mean, we treat a lot of these types of injuries here, actually, ballistic injuries in particular. And so the course is generally protracted, several months, but we always return them to full function at the end.
We've got time for 2 more questions, and then we're going to get back to work. Is there anything like to help? Is there blood that's needed, or just help?
The best thing for the community is, just support each other. We know that there's a lot of advocates out there. We know we have our chaplain services. We have a lot of services to kind of cope with what's just happened. So we don't need any sort of blood donations, although I always say go out and donate blood. But yeah, no, nothing like that.
Did the location of the hospital being so close to the university kind of the time thing we all know is most important, right? I mean, the people on the ground probably got to this stage for you guys to go, but all of it worked probably to your advantage by having it.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a level 2 trauma center, the only within a certain distance, in the Big Bend. So we know what role we play. Thankfully, we are towards the center of Tallahassee, very close to the university. So definitely helps in situations like this.
Dr. Howard, excuse me just a minute. Dr. Howard, can we let everybody go down the line and see if there's anything we left out that needs to be provided and kind of instruction before we finish?
Any comments from
I don't
anyone?
have any additional comments.
No.
What is the cause of death of people that pass away? The war?
Oh, we have no information on any of that. Yeah.
I just have a last timeline question. When would you say things were under control, or what sort of phrase would you use for that? From getting the first patient until things were...
Within an hour. We had at least 2 patients in the operating room within an hour. We talk about time from patient arrival to getting CT scans. That was within an hour. So you talk about 6 patients, that's impressive.
Was there a victim treated for non-gunshot wounds?
Not that I'm aware of.
Doctor, you talked about how fortunate some of these victims were. Could centimeters have made a difference for any of them?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, gunshot wounds, it can be a matter of inches or centimeters.
Obviously, this comes as there have been conversations about the hospital's future. Elise Brown Thomas, a Democrat, so local reporter, was very involved in these conversations. I want to know, if at all, how does this moment kind of factor into that discussion?
It doesn't at all. We function. We've been in partnership with this community, FSU, for a long time. We operate as so no factors whatsoever.
This incident happened on Holy Week. Easter's on Sunday. Just wondering how this will impact your Easter plans and what you're carrying into the weekend.
Just spend time with our families. That's same thing for us. We certainly are used to this, but we're all here to support each other, and we'll just take it a day at a time.
Any other comments from our physicians? Anything we left out or important to share? Do any of our physicians speak Spanish? Any has a specific Spanish language question?
Somebody could speak Spanish. I think this will be it, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for being so gracious with your time.
Thank you.
Yes, we have an amazing team. Thank you all for being here.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant right there. A news conference just wrapped up there in Tallahassee at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. The update that we got is from that shooting yesterday at Florida State's campus. 6 patients were admitted there to the hospital. 3 were operated on. All 6 are in stable condition, expected to make a full recovery. 2 actually expected to go home today. But again, we got that update from the hospital there just moments ago. That news conference just wrapping up. And right now, as far as we know, and this is the latest from NBC News, the suspect in the Florida State University shooting that left 2 people dead and several others hurt, was the son of a sheriff's deputy. And according to NBC News, Trump supporter who harbored white supremacist views and had a troubled childhood. That's according to officials and classmates. And again, this is what I'm reading on NBC News's website right now. Phoenix Eichner is the suspect's name, 20 years old. He is believed to be an FSU student and was arrested in the aftermath of Thursday's shooting. All right, so that was that press conference there. We want to shift over to some breaking news right now in Atlanta. This is coverage right now from our content partner, 11 Alive WXIA. And here's what we know. 2 officers are hurt and a suspect is dead after a shooting along Fulton Industrial Boulevard today. Authorities said around 11:40 this morning, officers saw a suspicious individual near Fulton Industrial Boulevard, which is the address for the Budgetel Inn and Suites there. A South Fulton police officer responded to the scene to provide support. When the officer arrived, the shootout then happened, resulting in injuries to a Fulton County police officer and a South Fulton police officer. And just to give you context, if you're not familiar with this area, Fulton Industrial Boulevard is west of downtown Atlanta, and you can access this from I-20. 285 is another way you can access this road. It's a major road there. Let's listen into the coverage. We don't have coverage?
No, it's just a live shot.
Okay, this is the live shot. Again, as you see right there, GBI, which is the state law enforcement agency for Georgia, has been requested in this case. You see this scene right here, a large police presence there in the Atlanta area. Again, I just want to rehash what we have so far. Again, this is according to our content partner, WXIA, 11 Alive in Atlanta. So this is what they're saying. This is out of Fulton County, which Atlanta sits in part of Fulton County. So 2 officers are hurt and a suspect is dead after a shooting along Fulton Industrial Boulevard today. And that's according to police. Authorities said at 11:40 this morning, officers saw a suspicious individual near 4120 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, which is the address for the Budgetel Inn and Suites. A South Fulton police officer responded to the scene to support. When the officer arrived, the shootout ensued, resulting in injuries to a Fulton County police officer and a South Fulton police officer. The suspect was fatally wounded during the incident, and that's according to police. And just to, I know I said Fulton County police officer and South Fulton. So South Fulton is a separate city from Atlanta, but it's right there connected in Fulton County next to Atlanta, not far from Atlanta. Fulton County is the sheriff's office or the police department that that's within the same jurisdiction. So I just wanted kind of to paint a picture, make it make sense for you guys looking and watching at home. Again, 2 officers hurt, a suspect dead after the shooting there in the Atlanta metro area. I spent time in Atlanta, so it's been several years since I've been in Atlanta. But again, this is Fulton Industrial Boulevard is a big street, very busy area. You can get to it from I-20, 285. This time of day, I always say Atlanta is always busy, so it's not just just because it's not because it's lunchtime or because it's even the morning commute. Atlanta is always busy. So again, you see that view of Fulton Industrial Boulevard there, and Fulton Industrial Boulevard is west. If you think of downtown Atlanta, it's west of downtown Atlanta. So again, this area is not far from the center of Atlanta. So, okay. All right. And so this isn't, I just want to let you know, this is just a look at the scene.
It says a live tab.
Yeah.
This was streamed moments ago.
Be okay.
On 11 Alive's
website. Okay.
And so this is their feed from just moments ago.
Okay. And so, look, guys, we're learning this in real time. And the important thing about this is once we get information in, we want to bring it to you here on Live Impact News. We'll tell you if something goes awry or if something changes. So, okay, that feed ended there. We'll get back to that story as more develops there. We want to get back to a conversation we had this morning in our 9 to 11 stream. So much has been happening. Like yesterday, there was the shooting at FSU. There was the school bus crash on I-77. A lot to process. And sometimes you need somebody to talk to. You need a way to decompress. And so here on Live Impact News, not only do we want to provide the latest breaking news, developing stories, content, we also want to provide you that content that is things that you can use in your everyday life to help you solve and help you navigate some of the things that are happening, especially in the news world. Let's take you. Are we playing this from the beginning? You want to? Yeah, let's play it from the beginning. This is an interview with Jaron Dobie. He's a mental health expert. Let's listen into this conversation.
We have our own resource here this morning right now from Novant clinical social worker Jaron Dobie. Thank you for joining us this morning. Dealing with mental health. This is such a huge topic, but how timely that we have you in here this morning, because I want to talk about the importance. It was like everything happened and resources are going to be available on campus. Mm-hmm. How has mental health become a different conversation when it comes, and a priority, I should say, when it comes to traumatic events like this?
Gotcha. It's very important, and the great thing about it is that mental health is always a priority, and especially in situations like this, it is more important than ever to make sure that both that have directly experienced these things, or directly and indirectly, right, are able to make sure that they are seeking and getting support. It is very much so vital for the improvement, of course, overall of their mental health.
You know, it's one thing to experience it, be directly involved or right there at the scene and watch it, like some of the kids that might be on that bus. It's another to just in the peripheral to be a witness to it. And I'm talking about first responders who had to, you're seeing young kids there, as much as the work that they do is dealing with innocent victims, but just young lives like that. So first responders, as well as media folks. We were on this as soon as it happened yesterday. Mm-hmm. And we might be media people, but we do have compassion, and we feel for our community and the things that happen to people that we may not know, mm-hmm. but we know that it's tragedy. So that witnessing trauma, hidden scars or wounds, if you will,
yes.
What is that effect?
I mean, it affects us in so many different ways, and you hit the nail right on the head. We cannot forget that our media, our EMTs, our police officers, our families and friends, we're all human, and trauma is one of those things that can that can impact us again, both directly and indirectly. You know, it doesn't matter if it's something that directly happened to you. If you were there, if you're covering it, if you're talking about it, if you've learned about it, this is something that can affect us all, and we have to make sure that we're keeping a pulse on ourselves. And I do a lot of work with the media, and every time before I leave, I always ask them, hey, make sure that you take care of yourselves, right? Or are you taking care of yourself, rather, right? Because it's important work that you all are doing, learning about all of these things, right, and covering it all, taking it home with you. You have to make sure that you are taking care of yourselves also. So my heart goes out to everyone involved, right?
Yeah,
whether you are the media, whether you are someone that directly went onto the scene, or whether you just learned about this or watching this live, it's important to make sure that you are taking care of yourself.
You know, we're looking at some of the footage there. This is on the campus of FSU, and young adults here being involved. We did learn one anecdote that someone experienced the shooting at Parkland when they were in high school, and then now we're looking at another shooting, just to witness it and saying that I can't believe I have to see two of these in my lifetime. Right.
Yeah. That right there is, I mean, they say that, you know, lightning can't strike twice in the same place. And when things like this happen, it is so unfortunate. You know, for folks that have experienced multiple occasions or multiple incidents of trauma, it is imperative, and I want to stress how imperative it is to make sure that you are most certainly seeking professional help. Because, of course, how difficult it can be to be able to witness death or learn about that before it to happen twice in your lifetime in such a tragic, well-covered situation, right, where you have to constantly relive that, right, by seeing it, hearing about it. It is most important to make sure that you are seeking professionals' help, like myself.
Yeah, and I mean, and then younger folks, it's a different way to approach kids in middle school with this bus accident. What are resource officers or counselors on campus telling families this morning?
So, of course, they're just making sure that they're making themselves present to the families and the students, that, hey, we are here as a support. That's one of the strongest things they can do at this time, to be able to let them know, hey, we are here to help, we are here to listen, we are here to be able to assist them. Because there are some folks, there are students there, right, that have large families, right, or multiple family members and friends, but there are some that may not have as many as others. So it's important to know that there is someone, a resource, someone at the school that's available to be able to assist them during such a difficult time.
The relationship between physical health and mental health, they are really separate. And so maybe these kids are going to recover from their injuries, whatever, to varying degrees, or students that might have gotten a peripheral wound or shards of glass when that happened. But the mental toll it takes, it seems it's longer term.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and I'm a firm believer of in my business that so goes the mind and so goes the body, and vice versa, right? Our mental health issues can affect our physical health issues, and vice versa also. So of course they will be able to recover, right, from those physical injuries that they were able to sustain. But you know, you never forget something, right? That's happened to you. You can move on from it, but you never forget, and that's what's important to be able to do, by being able to utilize your supports, creating routine for yourself, but most importantly, making sure that you are getting professional help if you are unable to cope with it in a healthy manner on your own.
How do you approach resilience?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know it's one step at a time.
Yes.
And it's a big question, but how does that work? What does that look like on day one?
It's more important than just one step at a time. You address resilience 1 second at a time, one moment at a time, because that is different for everyone. How one person recovers or moves on from a situation should not be how it is that you model, how it is that you move on, right? Because we are all unique and we are all very much so different. So in relation to resilience, we have to remember, be kind to yourself, but also be patient with yourself when it comes to recovery.
Yeah. We are coming coming up on the officer ambush a year since that happened in East Charlotte. 4 officers killed, a number of others injured, and one of them we spoke to. He's playing in an event tomorrow at Bojangles Coliseum. Salute to heroes, Michael Giglio. He was one of those who was wounded physically, and he told us that he's okay physically, totally recovered, but it is that long-term dealing with the head trauma, the mental health, if you will.
Yes.
Again, speaking to law enforcement, and that we approach things like, and they approach things like it is their job. As we look at them, they know they're doing their job, but on the other side of being involved in some traumatic event like that, again, what is the coping strategy here? And they're probably not thinking about how am I going to deal with my headspace after this, right?
Yes, and in relation to coping strategies, they vary. I tell folks coping strategies are not one size fits all. Everyone is different, and we all know ourselves. We are all the experts on our own lives. So it's important to be able to know the things that help you, right, that are healthy coping skills that are effective in you being able to move on. When I say healthy, I mean those that don't cause you or anyone else any hurt, harm, or danger, right? So no binge drinking, no driving fast, or excessive spending, things of that nature. We have to make sure that we're mindful of the things that work for us. And as it relates to that officer, I'm sure he's feeling exactly the way that a lot of folks are that were of course family members, friends of those that were impacted by that. So I just want to speak to him directly and tell him that I definitely hope that he is getting professional help. I definitely hope that he is being kind to himself and taking it one moment at a time when it comes to recovery, because that road can look different, right, for him. But it's important that as his supports in his life, right, remain to be there for him.
And you said they are.
Yeah,
yes.
And to encourage him, right, and to let him know that they're there for him if he needs anything whatsoever. So if there's any help or assistance that we can able to provide for him, we're more than happy to do that too.
I mean, and that is the important part too, is a support system to keep you in check, to say you're off by a little bit, what's going on. If we don't have a support system, and you rely on yourself, who checks yourself?
Exactly. So that's always one of those difficult questions, right? It's like I get asked that, JD, what do I do if I don't have anyone, right? It's important to be able to make sure that you also seek community in one way or another, right? There are various groups out there that exist, right? Or even various organizations that it is that folks can be able to join to make sure that they are not alone in their fight, right? But it does take being mindful, right? Being mindful of what it is that you are thinking, how you are feeling, what is it that you are doing or how you're behaving, right, in order to check yourself, right?
Yeah.
So being able to make sure that you are incorporating, right, your own organic coping skills and things like that that are working for you. And if these things are no longer working, please make sure that you seek professional help. Look, we all may seem alone, but you're never alone, right? We have to take that step in order to make sure that we're seeking help.
I think what is appreciated coming up on Mental Health Awareness Month, it is that word, awareness, to be self-aware, and that conversation and those buzzwords that we keep mental health out of the stigma department now. And this has become normal to get professional help when necessary. And it's not, an aside against you or me that we are checking in with our head. But generational views of health, mental health struggles, or just keeping it in check, if you will. There seems to be different approaches. One very, forthtelling. I got everything. I'm just going to spill it out and air it out. Right. And there are older people that are a little bit more refrained and restricted. How do you bridge the gap? And is there things that we can take from both sides or both directions and generations that maybe we need to learn how to cope a little bit better?
Right. So we have to understand, right, in bridging the gap, that we have to understand how things were, right, and how it is that they are now. Also, mental health was not at the forefront of everyone's minds and experiences, let's just say 10 years ago, right? It was very different. COVID changed everything for mental health. You started seeing mental health commercials, right, and things of that nature, advertisements. It was one of those things where we were forced to sit down, right, face ourselves, face the things that it is that have affected us, and said, hey, look, this is something that we need to address, both the the older and the younger generation. So when it comes to awareness and bridging the gap, it's just that, right? Bringing awareness, education, having the conversations, right? Being able to engage in those things that does help to normalize this more, right? Because the old sayings and the old belief and stereotypes of mental health, or you're crazy, or, you know, I don't want to see a shrink, right, to be able to, in order to be able to get some help. These things are being knocked down every day, right? And folks are definitely taking the opportunity to come out and make sure that they are seeking help. And this is something that remains to be important, that we continue, right, to make sure that we are putting the word out, communicating, sharing resources with each other, educating each other on the importance of making sure that we're taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. How about when, because I talked to another singer, Rachel Platten, she's a musician, a star, she's got a famous song out. She also speaks to saying everything. She comes from a family that just, you know, speaks her truth at all times. And that's why she admits that she went through postpartum depression after having her children. And she's also had a very successful life. It's like a juxtaposition between that success and a little bit of a depression despite your success. That's kind of like a conflict within yourself. Are we fronting? What is that?
Right. So it's not even that. I would say that your level of socioeconomic status or celebrity, right, or how much money that it is that you have, or success, right, however it is that you define that, does not exempt you from being able to experience mental health related issues, right? We all are experiencing some kind of evolution within ourselves, but of course we all have problems, right, in one respect or another. You know, singers have families, right? Singers have children and friends and things that it is that they experience, both good and bad. So we have to make sure that we remember that everyone is human at the end of the day.
All right. Jaron, this has been a really great, enlightening, eye-opening conversation. I feel like you know, we went through therapy this morning, right? It's been good, Carlene, huh?
It's been, after the heavy day we had yesterday, this is nice. It's a nice check-in.
Great.
And I mean, yeah, because I will speak to both of us sort of on the front line of watching. We had breaking news all day yesterday, and Carlene then was here from, we covered a fire, then we were watching the FSU, and then the bus crash. And so how did you end your day?
I went home and I played video games, because that's
your release.
That's my brain shut off, kind of disconnect from, I wouldn't say reality, but disconnect from the world.
Yeah,
and
you need that.
This is my time.
Yes.
to play Mario and get back with one. That's my, I guess, coping.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
That.
Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do the professionals do?
The same thing. Absolutely. And my wife and daughter can attest to that. That it's just about being able to unwind in a place that works for you. So guess what? Yep, I do the exact same thing, right?
Yes.
And take an opportunity to do other things as well, like be active and working out, right? And being mindful of what you eat, getting good sleep, right? Spending positive time with friends and family, right? Or even if you need to spend some of that good self-care time alone, right? Going to your favorite store, maybe doing some window shopping, maybe doing a little bit of real shopping, but that's another issue. But you know, taking an opportunity to travel as well. Weather's getting warmer, right? So a lot of folks are planning trips and things of that nature too. But look, everyone be kind when you see your spouse or your friend playing that game that day. You never know what it is that they experience, that it may be their opportunity to be able to wind down. So it's important that you said that.
I like it. I like it. Very good. I just sat in my cone of silence for a hot minute, maybe a hot 5, 10, 30 minutes, but that's how I deal with it a little bit.
Great.
Jaron, thank you so much. Anything else that we should know and walk away with all of these nuggets of mental health?
Gosh, I just want to remind everyone that we're all in it together. Like, we truly are in it together.
Right. I think, it's that isolation and feeling alone that's really hurtful in some ways.
Because our minds and situations can trick us into believing that we're just in it by ourselves and we're just going through life having very, very unique problems and no one can relate. And that's not always true. There's always someone that can relate, and there's always someone that can help. So please make sure that you do just that, right? Get the help, right? Take care of yourselves and just remember that you're not alone.
Jaron Dobie from Novant, clinical social worker. Thank you so much as we take on mental health. And it is so important to take care of that. So
absolutely.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
That was such an amazing interview, such an amazing conversation, Carlene. You were a part of that conversation. You spoke about how you decompress, and we've been talking about it since this morning, because it like I've said this before, we're not robots, we're humans. We feel like when tragedies, when we have to report on stuff like the shooting at FSU or the bus crash, just two situations and incidents out of the hundreds that we see, on the dozens that we see on the week in, week out. It could be a lot.
We do have to acknowledge, like, we know that we're not on the front lines. We know that we're not there on campus, but still we cover these heavy stories for hours at a time. Like, it does take a toll on you.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm good. Okay. I mean, it was I slept well. I needed it. It was a long day.
Yeah, it was a long day. You told me how video game. You mentioned this in the interview. Video games.
Mario, Zelda, my favorite. I'm a Nintendo girl. I just kind of get swept away in it for a couple hours just to have some me time. Yeah. I consider myself an extrovert. Yeah. I think other people would say I'm an extrovert.
You definitely are.
I just need a little bit of me time.
I love that for you. I mean, I just love that, because it's just, you get to get away from, what we see. And again, we have an important job. And like you said, we're not on the front lines. We're not first responders or the victims in these tragedies, but we're covering it. It can be heavy. We have to acknowledge that it can be heavy.
For a long time. Like, we were on it for hours yesterday.
Hours. And we didn't know where we were going. And that's a part of that, too. Like, we don't know what's next.
There's a adrenaline anxiety with it. We're trying to find out information that, it's a heavy afternoon.
And once it wears off, we're like, okay, what happened?
Yeah.
I was telling you, I made the mistake. I'm not going to give away the show, but I was watching the show when I got home thinking I'm going to decompress, and it was a very heavy show. So I had to turn that off, and I grabbed the book, started reading, and I went to bed early. That's how I decompress. And I felt a lot better this morning when I woke up and I'm ready to tackle the day. I was able to come in here. We had a great segment at the end of the 9 to 11 stream, but getting rest for me, taking a good nap.
Rest.
I love that. I love taking a good nap. That's how I sort of get back to Nick.
Yeah.
Because we talked off camera. You're like, I never see you in a bad, which I never see you in a bad mood either. So
we're pretty on the cheery side. I think people in the newsroom, if they're listening, they can disagree if they want. I don't think they would, but we're probably on the upper, like, happy, cheery people in the newsroom, kind of attitude-wise. So, yeah.
We find ways to decompress. Video games. I'm a movie, documentary, nap guy. I love taking walks.
Yep.
Especially on a sunny day.
Exercise.
Oh, exercise. I'm not going to go.
Kickboxing.
Man, I'm afraid of you, Carlene. I'm not. Carlene is a kickboxer. I'm not. I have no ill will, no bad words for Carlene. She might come.
No, it would never be on you. Now, speed bag is one thing. Never to you or anybody. Yes.
Oh, man. Again, an important conversation that was had, and that I'm lucky to have this continued conversation with you now on Live Impact News. And this is what you get, stuff like this, these moments here on Live Impact News. This is important to not only be tuned in for the breaking news and development stories, but for real conversations like this.
Yeah, peel back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to some snow.
This is some snow.
This is not in the Carolinas, by the way. This is in Colorado right now, Summit County, Colorado. Now, I have a little bit of information to share for you. So KUSA, our content partner there in the Denver area, they cover a bulk of the state of Colorado. And so this is what they're reporting. The snowpack in Summit County went from about average at the beginning of April to about 25% below average. So, yeah, from what I'm reading, they're used to having a lot more snow. Am I reading this correctly? Yeah. Oh, would you like to... Are you a snow person? Okay, I'm not.
Heavens, no.
I'm not a big... No. So skiing is not...
We're from the Carolinas, and we like it. We like it that way.
I like the warmer weather. I like chilly conditions, but when you get into snow, freezing, I'm like, oh, no, I can't. So that's.
Have you ever spent time at a place that was really snowy?
Like
a market? Yeah.
No. I've been in Myrtle Beach, Greensboro, Atlanta, Raleigh. Here, nope. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I did 3 years in Buffalo.
Oh, yeah, you did. You did.
I did
You
my
were-
time in the snow.
Oh, man.
I don't want to say I served my time, but I did my time in the snow. And the people of Buffalo are great. I love the people of Buffalo. I'm Bill's Mafia all the way.
You
The
just
food's
froze.
great. The weather was not
You
not
just
it.
froze.
The
It's
weather
okay.
was not it for me. I did my 3 years, and I said I got to get back down.
I was about to ask you. You did 3. Okay, 3. Yeah. That's. That,
I'd
yeah.
never seen real snow, and I moved up there.
And then
The
definitely-
photographers and the reporters, I was like Bambi on ice, and they helped me. They weighed down my Honda Civic. They said,
Oh,
they helped me
man.
out. They made an emergency kit for me, the whole nine.
Were you far from work? The commute?
I was maybe 10, 15 minutes, but let me tell you what, it doesn't take much to have you slide through
Right.
stoplight. You have to learn how to drive in snow. I didn't know.
I love living in the Carolinas where we might get snow.
Right.
And we've had snow kind of this year, like a dusting of snow. I'm cool with that. I don't need a big snow event. I'm fine with that. So that is Summit County, Colorado, snowy conditions there. All right, so we want to get to another important story here on WCNC Plus. The draft special, the NFL draft special with Locked On, Thursday, April 24th, 7 p.m. On your left, that's sports director Nick Carboni. On the right, that's sports anchor reporter Danielle Stein. They will be there at Bank of America Stadium. Am I reading that right? Bank of America Stadium?
Yes.
How can I get in on this?
You're going to have to ask your twin, Nick Carboni.
I just saw him yesterday and I forgot to ask because I have some draft analysis. I had a little draft analysis earlier. I think the Panthers. I'm not gonna. We're gonna actually.
You're a Panthers fan.
I'm a diehard Panthers fan. I have stories, but I'm not going to get into it because I've told these stories over and over again. But no, I think the Panthers should go defense. I wouldn't be mad if they went offense, but let's go defense. But anyway, I mean, this special is going to be cool. They're going to hear from experts live there with the draft special on WCNC Plus. You're going to hear from our great sports team, Nick Carboni, Danielle Stein. I'm hearing, and maybe Carlene, you can confirm this, the GM, Dan Morgan, might be available for us. Maybe I'm letting the cat out of the bag. I don't know. That's what I heard.
Is that what's on the word on the street?
That's the word on the street.
That's huge.
I could be wrong. Dan Morgan, is he going to be on the special?
Maybe.
We're hearing a strong maybe. We're hearing a strong
I'm
maybe.
selling it. Well, I don't need to sell it that much because this is going to be great.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Yeah. But
no matter who's on it.
Maybe I'm just.
We're going to make it shine.
Maybe this is what I want. Okay. Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
This is a special announcement. We're going to tease what we call teasing the show. So there's going to be a lot of guests.
Okay.
On. So you'll hear again from some of the things from our specials that we've been running on Thursdays.
Yeah.
We've got some people from Locked On coming into the station, so they're going to be here to jaw with Nick back and forth. We're going to be at Bank of America Stadium or outside the stadium with Danielle, getting immediate reaction that way. So there's a lot coming up.
Well, maybe I heard Danny, and I thought I heard Dan Morgan.
Now, Danielle for sure.
It's draft day, so
we
Dan Morgan.
We have asked the team for these people, so it's just a matter. It's just a matter of them getting back.
Hey,
So we'll
look,
see.
good. Let's put the good vibes out there. Maybe we'll get Dave Canales, Dan Morgan.
By the way, this is Assistant News Director Sharif.
Sharif, yes.
We didn't even introduce you.
This is the head guy here for the live stream. No, but thank you for coming on and setting the record straight.
We got lots of things coming up on.
Because I was going to say you're going to have Nick Sturdivant there, but that might not be the case. I don't think I got invited.
Your name didn't come up when we were talking about it. It didn't come up.
Oh.
You weren't even in the running.
I wasn't. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm okay. I'm okay. All right. So you don't want to miss that special. But before then, Nick Carboni is having some incredible guests here in Live Impact Studios, breaking down the Panthers draft, where they could go, the best possible landing spots for some of these top players in the draft. He spoke with Vashti Hurt with Carolina Blitz. She is all things Panthers, college basketball, culture. Let's listen in to that interview Nick did.
We've got Vashti Hurt from CarolinaBlitz.com. She's bringing you sports, culture, commentary, video, and podcasts. Vashti, thanks for joining us. You have everything on that site, and you go everywhere to get it. So I've got to ask, like, how many miles are going on that car in a calendar year?
It's a lot. It's a lot, especially when you have college football and the NFL and college basketball. When they overlap, it's a lot. But, you know, it's fun also, and I love covering the teams that we cover. So.
And before the show, I did apologize for getting on that flight to San Antonio that you were unable to get on. You weren't the only one, though. That was crazy.
It was to have weather during one of the biggest events in Charlotte with Duke in the Final Four. It was bad. It was bad. I'm still not over that one.
Yeah, but at least it gave us a couple of days of break before we get to this draft. You know, you are always on Mint Street. And you were there the other day when Dan Morgan spoke ahead of the draft. Thought it was interesting. It's just Dan right now, no Dave, no scouting department. Like, it's clearly his draft, and we'll get into that. You said you read into everything, and I think you have a good read on everything. The Panthers, according to Mike Kay of the Observer, did not go to there was a private workout at Georgia today in which Jalen Walker and Michael Williams, two guys attached to the Panthers and all these mocks, worked out in. Now, there's all sorts of other ways to scout somebody, to get to know somebody, to interview somebody before the draft. Do you read anything into the fact that they weren't there?
I don't. I think that the Panthers and Dan and Dave are confident in the work that they've done. There's such a thing as overthinking it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that when you're asked, like, for Jalen or even a Shador, you have teams who are on the cusp, maybe guys who don't agree between your scouting department or your head coach and your GM. I think the Panthers are in alignment. We've heard that word from them a lot, right? I think they know what they want. I think they have their draft board in order, and they're going to stick to that and not even try to mess around with any type of additional questions around where they want to go. I think they know what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's a great word, alignment, because we've heard them say alignment before, but then we know how many cooks were in the kitchen. I mean, especially leading up to the 2023 draft. I do think it's interesting that it's just Dan that's being put in front of us right now. What do you think of that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that is interesting. Usually, and historically, we've talked to Dan and the head coach, or the GM and the head coach, Scott.
Scouting department. Yeah.
Scouting department. Yeah. But this is them saying, Dan is the guy in charge, and there's nobody for this draft. This is who, is responsible for it being good, or if there are any questions, this is where the line stops. And so for him to be the only one up there is saying that he's in charge, and he's done his work. He was confident. Yep. He let a little bit out of the bag, I think. but yeah, this is Morgan's show.
We'll get to some of what he might have let out of the bag, but I feel like every time I see a mock draft at this point, and I can't stop clicking on them, I know I shouldn't, but it's like, I feel like some of these outlets are just like, Jalen Walker, because, that's what I've read. Do you think it's that? Do you think their interest in Jalen Walker is so heavy that it's like, all right, wait till Thursday night. If he's there, he's a Panther.
I don't look at the mock drafts. I'm surprised that you do.
I can't help it.
Because it's so much. And, everybody is really projecting their opinions. No one knows where the Panthers are going to go. Like you said, I mean, after that first pick, who everyone is assuming is going to be Cam Ward, there are so many questions regarding this draft, what teams plan on doing, who they like. Nobody is really tipping their hat as to what they want to do and where they're going to go. And the Panthers pretty much are doing the same. So I think that when we see the mock drafts, it's based on what the Panthers need. And yeah, the Panthers were terrible on defense, so the assumption is they're going to do whatever they need to do to shore up that side of the ball. But honestly, we don't know what direction they're going in, and we'll find that out next Thursday. But it's the drafts can get a little bit daunting.
Jalen Walker, he's kind of the story of the week in Charlotte. I mean, they call him a hybrid player, right? He can play outside, inside linebacker, off ball, edge rush. When you think of hybrid defensive player and this Panthers defense, does that scare you at all? Because they've had some guys where, like when I think of Jeremy Chin, like they didn't really utilize him to either of those strengths, let alone one of them. Frankie Louvu, though, he was kind of a hybrid linebacker, and he worked, but he was an undrafted guy who they picked up.
Right, and I was thinking about Frankie Louvu earlier. I think the hybrid player works if your defensive coordinator knows how to properly use him. And in the example of Jeremy Chin, he couldn't even find the field.
Yeah.
You know, not last season, but the year before Evero's first year, he could barely find the field, and then he goes to Washington and he has success. On the flip side, Frankie Louvu was good, and the Panthers wanted to keep him, and he opted to go someplace else. So it really depends on the system and then how that defensive coordinator is going to utilize that player. Is Evero going to be able to get the most out of a good defensive player? Are you going to have your top edge rusher dropping back in coverage all the time? There are questions all along all of those lines, and I think ultimately it falls on Evero how those guys will succeed, especially being a hybrid player who can move along multiple positions.
All 32 NFL GMs, I bet if we go back and look at their pre-draft news conference, are going to say some version of like, all options are on the table. But with the Panthers, it feels like the option that, if it's on the table, it's barely there, is trading up, getting a better pick in round 1 and giving up assets. Do you think there's any chance they do that? I mean, anything can happen, I guess.
I think they want to trade back.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that maybe if they have a guy that they're absolutely in love with and he's at 6 or 7 and they have a good relationship with that GM, maybe they do. But I think from what I see, and you know, Dan kind of gave it away. He said if we're stuck at 8.
I was going to ask you about that.
Stuck is like, I don't necessarily want to be in this position. And a lot of people, and I tend to agree, there's a lot of parity. Like after those top guys, after those top, let's say 5 or 6 guys, there's kind of a lot of parity from there to the rest of the guys who have a first round grade. So if there's a team who you know is desperate to get a guy, then I would not be mad at the Panthers trading back. You could trade back and still get Walker and get an additional pick in, let's say, the 2nd or 3rd round. So I think that that's what they're looking to do. But, you know, I don't see them trading up. I don't see them trading up.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment when he said, if we get stuck, because then somebody asked him to kind of clarify that. He's like, oh, no, we like where we're at, but we'll be waiting. So I mean, it definitely seemed like he was like sending that signal to 31 other teams, like, we're here for you, just give us a call.
I thought it was a slip up, and maybe he was sending it to other teams. I feel like if I were a GM, I would kind of make it seem like I really wanted that 8th pick, so that way the price would be higher when you started calling my line, instead of I really don't want to pick 8th. And so, you know, we're open for business with that pick. Then now, if I'm a negotiator, I'm saying, well, they really don't want to pick at 8, so what I'm going to offer is now less than what I would have offered if I know that they're desperate or they really have a guy that they have in mind.
So I look at the gap between pick 8 and their next one at 57, and I'm selfish, and I'm like, that's a long time for me to sit around on Friday night.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, if Dan Morgan had his druthers, he would start to stack some picks up before 57 and after maybe whatever they trade back to?
Absolutely.
In the teams?
Yeah. I think that they don't want to wait that long to pick a guy, especially if they have multiple guys that they like equally. Then you're not necessarily sacrificing if you trade back and lose maybe your 1A guy. You still have your 1B guy that's available. And I think that they want to acquire as many picks as possible. And so, yeah, I think Dan wants to trade back and then get another pick, you know, right around probably the top of the 2nd round, where he could get potentially somebody who would have had a first round grade and then just drop down based on how the draft went.
So obviously they were active in free agency, didn't get the big piece on defense, Milton Williams, but got like a handful of rotational players at every level of the defense. If there was no draft, which they're obviously going to go heavy defense, how would you feel, like, how much better is this defense from the historically bad defense it was last season?
I mean, could it get any worse?
I don't think so.
I don't think it could get any worse.
Thank goodness we don't have 18 games yet.
Yeah, and I think they did a good job. I think Morgan and Canales did a good job of shoring up areas that they needed to do. Like they said during the combine, they wanted to stop the run. You get a guy like Bobby Brown, who is a big guy, who would potentially or probably work better in that defensive scheme that Evero has, along with a Derek Brown who's coming off of injury, to kind of clog up that middle and stop the run.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We want to dip out of that interview real quick to take you to some breaking news right now. A story that we are tracking, a tense situation there in West LA. So what you're watching now, Ford Mustang that stopped. You see that police presence right behind that Ford Mustang. The driver of that Ford Mustang, as we notice, and we've been keeping a close eye on this, continues to brief moments get in and out of the car, show his hands to officers. You see the officers there with guns pointed at the Ford Mustang. So this is what NBC4 in LA is reporting. So they're reporting officers are chasing a Ford Mustang. Well, we're chasing a Ford Mustang on streets and freeways in the West Los Angeles area. And this pursuit continued in the Hollywood area and continue. You see the suspect right now, that driver, getting out of the car. As we mentioned, he's pointing at officers. And so, so this is what we're looking at right now. This stems from a domestic violence investigation. So we're going to keep a close eye, but we're going to cut away from this just in case. We don't know how this is going to. It's a very tense situation, but this is what we're tracking right now. Let's get back to that interview for our WCNC Plus Draft Special.
You get Mo Rig at safety. Yep. He's a guy who seems like he's a hard hitter. He has no problem with coming down in the box, playing closer to the line of scrimmage. I think that he's somebody who Panthers fans will really like just because of his passion and the way that he plays. You got Wharton. And you know what, Wharton, with him, we don't know these guys, right? Because we don't cover the teams that they were on. Yeah. But I looked to see how their fans reacted. And the fans hated the fact that he was leaving. So that tells me that he's somebody who, low-key, was probably a good player, a rotational.
We want to get back to that breaking news in West LA. As we were going back to that interview, you see officers rush the car. We wanted to take you away just in case something we don't know happened, right? Something deadly happened, but it doesn't appear deadly at all. So what we noticed, officers rushed that car. They took the driver out. There was also a passenger there. You see, that's why you see both doors open. They took a woman, it looks like a woman, into custody. You see the driver there. He's in custody. He's at sort of towards the bottom of your screen as officers have put handcuffs on him. And they prepared to put him in the back of a patrol vehicle. But just to set the scene for you, so this is what NBC4 in LA reported on or is reporting, and just to sort of backtrack on how we got to this situation. So officers were chasing a Ford Mustang driver on streets and freeways in West Los Angeles, that area. The pursuit began in the Hollywood area and continued into West LA, onto the 405 freeway, into Santa Monica and areas near LAX, that's the airport. The driver pulled to the side of the road near Marina Expressway in the Del Rey area, where several patrol cars pulled up behind the car, and that's where we picked up and showed you where we were in that situation. The driver is wanted in a domestic violence investigation, according to authorities. Again, this is coming from NBC4 in Los Angeles. You see there towards the camera keeps panning or zooming out rather, but there is a suspect in custody. That driver is in custody. They also potentially two. They actually got a woman into custody, appears to be a woman from the passenger side. They have popped open the trunk. So that Ford Mustang is on the top of your screen. You see that trunk and those two doors open, the driver's side and the passenger side open. You see that swarm of officers there behind that Mustang. That driver, you see at the bottom of your screen, is being put into a patrol car. He looks like he's out of frame right now. Okay. So, you see that suspect right there in the bottom of your screen. Officers are, trying to get him in the car. He's in handcuff. I don't know if he's refusing or if they're searching him. But there's some sort of dialogue, obviously, going on between that driver and officers. Now, this is a pretty decent size police presence here for this chase.
What, dozen?
Yeah.
2 dozen?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Officers there?
And we also want to know, we mentioned this earlier, a woman was taking it. Okay, so there is looks like a woman right there with handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I do want to point out, Carlene, it looks like, unless she had a hood on or something else on, it looked like there was a woman with different color hair.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is the same woman.
Right.
Again, a lot happened.
A lot.
A lot of officers rushed that Ford Mustang.
It happened just within a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
So we were trying to figure out what's happening here.
Yeah, and we wanted to make sure that this wasn't something that turned
got
deadly.
escalated,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So we were cutting away and then coming back to this, but you see right there. Okay, the driver on the bottom left of your screen is pinned up against a patrol vehicle. And there's also a woman also in handcuffs not far away towards the right. You can see as that camera starts to zoom out, you see just how many officers responded, the traffic backup there. And again, according to NBC4 LA, the driver is wanted in a domestic violence investigation. That's according to authorities. That's what NBC4 Los Angeles is reporting right now. You see that woman that was top right headed towards the Mustang. She is being escorted by officers. She's in handcuffs. I guess it looks like they're just putting a little bit more distance between the driver and that woman who is a passenger. And then you see that driver. Have they got him into the patrol car yet?
Can't really tell.
Again, we're learning and we're watching this stuff in real time with you. So this is in West LA. This is in the Marina Expressway in the Del Rey area of LA. And so it looks like officers are trying to get that driver into one of the patrol vehicles. Again, this stems from a domestic violence investigation happening right now. You see that on your screen, and you see how many officers are responding. You actually see some people that are at nearby businesses. It may be an apartment complex, but whatever that building is on the right side, you saw some people come out checking out what's going on. Obviously, there's something of interest. Something like this happens in the area that you are. You want to know what's happening. You want to know what's going on. So again, this is the Marina Expressway, Del Rey area of LA, West Los Angeles. It looks like officers got the driver in a patrol vehicle, and now it looks like they have the trunk open, a car. They're searching the car door open, the hood of the car open. They're searching the car. There is a woman. There's a Playa Vista sign that you see there on the left side of your screen. Behind that, there's a woman apprehended with cuffs on. And so you can't see that woman because she's behind that sign. But we noticed that she was by a patrol vehicle and that officers escorted her behind that sign. Looks like they were creating some sort of buffer or distance. Wow, you see the police response there. You see those officers. I counted 16. I could be off. It was a quick count. It was a quick count. I was counting. You see a woman. I don't know if you can see that woman. She's in. Appears to be a woman. Let me see. Appears to be a woman.
She's behind that
Playa Vista sign. With the gray pants on, and you see officers behind her. So let me start from the beginning. So according to NBC4 LA, officers were chasing a Ford Mustang driver on streets and freeways in the West Los Angeles area. The pursuit began in the Hollywood area and continued into West LA onto the 405 freeway and into Santa Monica and the areas near LAX. The driver eventually pulled to the side of the road in the Marina Expressway area of Del Rey, which is in West LA, with several patrol vehicles pulled up behind the car. And when we got on, we saw the end of that chase. We saw officers behind that Ford Mustang. The driver kept going in and out of the car. We thought he had a gun at first, just to be in the sake of transparency, but it was
wearing a glove.
Yeah, black gloves.
Black glove. Might have been like a driving glove, something like that. But
yeah.
So we were a little bit
skittish,
hesitant to bring it to you because we didn't know if it would escalate.
We didn't know. We didn't want to bring that to you on this stream. But it looks like officers have a hold of the situation right now. Do we want to stick with this?
Sure, but before that, let's remind people what we're what we're talking about.
Okay, so you want to go back to the interview?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to move away from that situation there in West LA, and we want to remind you the NFL Draft Special with Locked On Thursday, April 24th, 7 p.m. here on WCNC. Plus, you don't want to miss it. Nick Carboni, Danielle Stein giving you a breakdown of the draft as the first round is set to play out that day. The Panthers have the 8th pick. Who will they pick?
Nick?
I'm going Jalen Walker, linebacker, edge rusher from Georgia. So I think you can't go wrong with a D lineman, edge rusher, especially the Panthers had one of the worst defenses last year. But what do I know? What do I know? Nick Carboni spoke with Vashti Hurt. She is a Panthers expert, I would like to say. She's with Carolina Blitz, covers all things sports in the Carolinas and culture. Let's go back to that interview right now.
Guy, he started 10 games, I believe, but still not a main name, but somebody the fan base was connected to. So I think the Panthers did a good job of replacing their big person with a lot of key people who will probably make an immediate impact, and so good for them so far.
We know that whatever they do in the first round, offense or defense, they're going heavy defense in this draft. They got 9 picks at the moment. Like, they got to pick up some pieces on all levels of that defense, preferably ones that impact the game. But I know they like their receiver room, and it's better than it was a couple of years ago for Bryce. But how important is it to, as they're building the defense, continue to help him out, especially because of the progress and promise he showed at the end of last year? How important is it to do that, right now?
Very important. And, he's entering year 3, and that's historically been a pretty critical year for quarterbacks. So you have your rookie year, you don't know how that's going to be. Your sophomore year, sometimes you go through a slump, but we saw Bryce improve toward the end, benching and all of that. So now he's shown promise. Now this third year is kind of if this will tell the Panthers if they truly have their guy, right? Because if he doesn't do well, now you're questioning, do we need to go get another quarterback? But Bryce needs to have weapons. And I'm not out on Xavier Legette. I think that he had a rough rookie season. However, he was able to get separation. He just had issues catching the ball. I think you can fix that. What I think they need offensively is speed. And they don't have that speed guy who can stretch the field. I think that they could potentially get that in the draft. You just don't know in the draft if that player is going to make an immediate impact. Maybe they get that. Maybe there's a guy in free agency, a diamond in the rough that they pick up that adds that speed on the outside for the Panthers. But they do need to add speed to that wide receiver room.
Are we not talking about tackle enough in this draft? Because you got 2 guys at tackle that are coming up. They haven't picked up Icky's 5th year yet, and they could do that after the draft, but maybe if they draft a tackle high enough, they won't. And then Taylor Moton, long-time veteran, durable guy, he's playing out the last year of his contract, it looks like. So how crucial is it going to be for them to start to add pieces there?
I thought it was very interesting that Dan was non-committal when it came to Icky. Typically, he'll say, we're going to do that. We just haven't done it yet. We always knew they were going to pick up JC's 5th-year option. He was very clear with that. So for him to be, we're not doing that at this time, or just to be hands off with that, I thought was it gave me pause. I think they'll pick up his option, but it was interesting that he was so non-committal. I don't think they go high with tackle because I I thought Brady Christensen was a huge.
I was surprised he came back.
I couldn't believe it because he was such a guy. He can literally play every position along that offensive line, and it's not necessarily a huge drop off. And his true position was left tackle in college. That's all he played in college. So I think Brady Christensen was a huge low key signing in the offseason. I do think, you know, the Panthers have they're paying the most for the offensive line. Right now, the offensive line is good. You know, they're probably one of the more solid groups on the team, period. I don't see them going, maybe in later rounds, maybe 3 or 4, they go offensive line, but not really early on in the draft.
All right, again, we're here with Vashti Hurt from CarolinaBlitz.com. You can find her on X at Keep Blitzin. This is all in advance of our big NFL draft special next Thursday night here on WCNC Plus from the Impact Studio. I want to go back to Dan Morgan a little bit, Vashti. I mean, every draft is a big draft for a GM, but, you know, his free agent signings last year on the line helped. I think we're still kind of trying to figure out that draft class a little bit. So how crucial is this draft class going to be for him, especially because it's coming on his side of the ball? And as we mentioned, it's his show right now.
Yeah, you know, you have to, in order, successful franchises hit in the draft. And you just don't hit on that first round pick. You have to hit in rounds 2. You have to find key contributors in round 3 and 4. And you maybe find a guy who is good in rounds 5 or 6. You know, the Panthers have not done well in the draft, period. In recent years. They have done well in round 1, okay? But after that, it's been pretty much downhill. And even since Marty Herney, that's been the trend with Carolina. They'll hit in the first round.
Gettleman did too.
And Gettleman. You'll hit in the first round, and then it's just downhill after that. Dan Morgan has to change that. You cannot build a roster and only hit in the first round. And I think he knows that. And so this draft is very important for him. You know, last year's class was his first class. Like you said, it's still kind of up in the air how those guys will do. None of them necessarily came in and was like gangbusters and really allowed anyone who would defend Morgan to say, okay, he brought in this guy. It's draft-wise. And I mean, he hit in free agency with those signings on the offensive line. But draft-wise, he doesn't have a player that he can hang his hat on yet and say, look, I got this guy and I brought him in. He needs that. He needs that. And whether he gets that this year, he needs that this year.
What do you think about the way they're trying to get a winning product back out on the field consistently, but also like not skip steps, so to speak, and do it the right way and build it from the inside out?
Yeah, NBA, it takes literally. Like it could take, I mean, look at the Philly
working on a decade,
right?
here.
Look at Philly, you know, trusting the process.
Falling apart. Yeah.
And they're still in that, and they sold it well, but the process didn't work. In the NFL, you can turn a team around in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Look at Detroit, right? Detroit went from one of the worst teams in the league. They hit on their coach, they hit on a quarterback, they hit on draft picks, and now they're considered a Super Bowl contender every year. So I think you can change an NFL team in 3 years. This is not the Jay-Z plan that Matt Rule talked about, 7 years. You can switch a team around in 3 years, and, you know, Canales is going into year 2, and Morgan is going into year 2. And with the NFC South, as open as it is, every year the NFC South is kind of, you know, the Panthers win those last couple of games toward the end of the season when they were close, Kansas City, Philly, you're right there in contention for the division at the end of the year. So I think that given the division that the Panthers are in, you have to, you know, you can't look at this as a 4 or 5 year project. You need to be competing for a playoff spot in year 3 at minimum. I think that that's the goal this season, of course. But next year, you got the rubber has to hit the road, and it has to be, you know, the Panthers have to be in solid contention for that NFC South.
You know, when the season ended the way it did in Atlanta, there was no way you could tell me that wasn't real, what we saw from Bryce Young the last eight weeks of the season. And we won't really know until he hits the field next season, but as you're further away from it and process it a little more, does it still feel like that's who Bryce Young is?
Bryce is different, right? So I ran into Bryce during the Super Bowl at a party, and his whole aura is different, and I know aura is the word that these young kids use, but the aura is different.
You felt it in the locker room.
You felt it in the locker room. He's opening up. He's becoming more comfortable in himself, not just as a player, as a man. And I think that that's very important for guys. Like, you have to have confidence. You have to be comfortable in yourself. He's never really switched up who he was. He's always stayed true to, he doesn't get too high, too low, but the vibes are different. And I think that that's important. He got through the tough part. And now I do think that he's a guy who is going to continue to build on what we saw at the end of last year.
What do you think he can do with this offense as it stands now? Obviously, we think they're going to try to add somebody on probably day 2, and as you mentioned, you just don't know how that's going to work out. Like, if they roll it back with this offense, how do you think he'll do?
I think they pick up where they left off. You know, Rico Dowdle, that signing, you get a guy who was a 1,000-yard rusher in Dallas last year, and you couple him with Chuba Hubbard. Of course, Miles Sanders and Chuba did not work, but I think that Rico and Chuba could work. Could the Panthers have, I think they could potentially have a 1,000-yard rushing duo, or at least close to, for the first time since, Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams did it. So if Dave is committed to the run like he says he is, you have an offensive line who loves to run the ball. If they can really become a run-first team and just allow Bryce to be a playmaker here or there, I think that offense could do well just as it is. But it has to be an offense that is truly committed to the run, and then open it up maybe through play action on the pass on the back end. But it has to be a run-first offense.
Yeah, I think in the back half of the season, it went from like, okay, Bryce is getting more comfortable, to, okay, he's the guy for next year, to like, we're throwing all sorts of wild stuff out there, like he could be a top 10 quarterback in the next 2 years. Like, did it affect how you viewed the top of his game and what that would look like?
His play at the end of the season? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He was.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to take you to some breaking news right now in Gaston County. Right now, this is a map of where an accident has happened there, I-85 North at mile marker 19. Lanes are closed there due to a vehicle crash there. 2 lanes out of the 4 lanes are closed. This is what we're getting from NCDOT. Again, this is at mile marker 19 near Gastonia, near East Ozark Avenue. You see it right there. Again, the left 2 lanes are closed at East Ozark Avenue. You see that red there. It stretches for a good chunk of that stretch of road there of the highway. Going to cause some traffic headaches, and that's why it's important for you to be here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, because when stuff happens like this, we want to bring it to you live, and we have this map up. So it looks like the stretches from East Gastonia to the Jenkins Heights area of Gaston County.
It looks like, just looking at the mile markers, you're looking at about 3 miles of backup.
Okay.
Because it goes like from 19 to 16, and a little bit farther back from there is the red.
So be aware, if you're in the area planning to head towards this area, this is what you're most likely going to be dealing with right now. And again, as far as we know, a vehicle crash there near mile marker 19. 2 of the 4 lanes closed right there, and this is near East Ozark Avenue. Again, we will continue to keep an eye on this crash. And look, I realize this is Easter weekend. You see that travel advisory right there on your screen? It's Easter weekend. Folks are moving and shaking this weekend, trying to get to their destinations. And so this could slow down that commute if you're trying to get home to pack and get ready to hit the road, or if you're already packed and about to hit the road.
I don't know how many times you've been on 85 on a Friday.
It is not pretty.
I've driven 85 to go to Greenville several times to see friends there, and I'm like, anytime it's busy.
It's busy. It's not
busy.
It's
Doesn't matter
not pretty.
if it's Easter weekend or any other weekend.
It's not pretty. People are trying to get home, and people are trying to again move and shake wherever they need to go. So again, we'll keep an eye on this crash. crash. Again, vehicle crash near mile marker 19 on I-85 North. This is northbound lanes. 2 lanes are closed. Keep this in mind if you're in the area or about to head towards this direction. All right, we want to get back to that interview with Vashti Hurt with Nick Carboni. Let's take a listen in.
Making the plays that we saw him make at Alabama, those plays where he was scrambling, those second and third, reads and coming out of the pocket, running the ball more. There were a lot of questions about his durability. I think that he's answered those questions about his durability. So yeah, I saw elements of his game that we saw when he was at Alabama. We saw them toward the end of the season. Yeah, I think he builds on that, and it was interesting how the tune kind of changed. It was, Andy Dalton we believe in, and then it was, well, Bryce is coming in, and then, well, we're not naming the quarterback for week to week, and then it became Bryce Young, we're not naming him starter. Then it evolved into he's our quarterback for the future, and all of that was because of what he did on the field.
I know we don't know what to expect any draft night, but last year I think took the cake because we thought we were gonna have a quiet night. Yeah. And then they made that trade like right around 11 o'clock to go up and get Xavier, and then we remember, I'm sitting in the newsroom and somebody's like, "Have you seen the thing that happened at Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with David Tepper?" I mean, did you see a different David Tepper last year? At points?
I think David Tepper is who he is.
Yeah.
I think that David Tepper is a guy who legitimately wants to win. So people who say he doesn't want to win, I feel like he's an uber competitive, self-made billionaire. All he wants to do is win, right? But he also has a hard time not checking people. So the Dilworth Grill thing was one. When you're running a hedge fund, you always have your spoon in the pot, right? Yeah. And I think that in football, he still felt like he might have been the smartest guy in the room. He had to learn. You're not necessarily the smartest guy in the room when it comes to this. You're gonna have to take a back seat. And even if you are still involved, we can't know about it. Yeah. Because so I do think, I think that he and Dave are having weekly meetings? Absolutely. I think they're having weekly meetings. We just don't hear about it anymore. And so is Dave involved? Absolutely. But we just don't hear about it as much. And he can't do the stuff like roll up in neighborhood or Dilworth Grill and be mad about a sign. You can't take the stuff personally. And that's what I think he's learning, because I think he genuinely wants to be liked by the fan base. And until the team is good, nobody's going to like you. And now you have to put the guys in charge to change the franchise around and make it a sustained, sustained excellence in his opening press conference. Yep. You have to deliver on that promise. And then people will be like, okay, I like Dan. Or, yeah. Dave.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it's a different David Tepper at Charlotte FC tailgates.
Really?
Oh, my gosh. Playoffs last year, he was strolling around, getting applause, people taking selfies. So that's what he wants to do on Sundays, and he just can't do it yet. All right, so outside of something like that, what would really surprise you next Thursday night if the Panthers did what?
If they traded up.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they traded up.
Who do you think they would try to get? I mean, Carter? I mean, you got to go a long way to get Carter.
Yeah, you'd have to go a long way to get Carter.
Graham, maybe? Maybe a couple
that's
spots.
Who I would think that they would trade up to get.
Okay.
Maybe a Mason Graham. That might be a guy they say, okay, this is our guy, and we're going to trade up to go get him. Yeah. But I just don't, that word stuck. Yeah. It was bruh, the poker face was not there during that press conference.
He's trying. He's trying.
But the word stuck really has me they don't really want to stay at 8. They want to trade back and get some more picks. So if they traded up and were aggressive and got a guy, that would shock me. But I wouldn't be mad at it, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. So, they would have to part with some assets to kind of thin out their draft capital for this year. So for the right player, you'd be good with that?
If the player hits, I don't think it matters because, the draft is still unknown. You could pick up a guy and he not do anything. You could trade up for a guy or trade back. If you have a guy that you completely believe in 100%, then trade up and go get him. I just don't know if they have that.
Okay, so after Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, outside of who the players are, what does Carolina need to say, we came out of the draft with this to be successful?
We came out of the draft with somebody who's going to improve the defense immediately, right? We added to our safety room because
Yeah.
they need.
It's,
I mean, you
there's
just don't
less
have
people
it.
in there than there are in here right now.
You don't have
Yeah.
anybody in your safety room. We added somebody. We added some depth to our offensive line, and then we added some speed at receiver. Whether they're young or not, we added some speed to receiver. And then there are other areas that they can fill in, linebacker. Like, I feel like the Panthers have so many needs, most of which are on the defensive line, but you got to get a safety. You got to get another either edge rusher or somebody along, or a defensive lineman. And you got to have some type of speed at wide receiver.
All right, hey, kick your feet up till Thursday, all right? Do us a favor. Good Lord, you've been everywhere. All right, Vashti Hurt from CarolinaBlitz.com at Keep Blitzen joining us here on the WCNC Live Impact News Studio. And we are going to have more from Vashti and a lot more on the Panthers draft on Thursday night, the 24th, kicking it off at 7 o'clock right here on WCNC Plus to get you ready for the draft.
It's going to be a great one, folks. It's going to be a great one. So make sure you tune in. All right. So let's get back to some of that breaking news that we've been following, and we want to get you back to, again, this is I-85 near mile marker 19 lanes closed there. 2 out of the 4 lanes closed in a vehicle crash. This is in Gadsden County. This is mile marker 19 near Gastonia, near East Ozark Avenue. 2 left lanes are closed at East Ozark Avenue. It is about, we looked on the map, about a 3-mile stretch where we're starting to see, or we have been seeing delays rather, from this vehicle crash backup. Again, just if you're watching Live Impact News right now, just keep this in mind if you are headed in that direction or plan to head in that direction. Again, a lot of folks hitting the road on this Good Friday as folks are looking to celebrate this holiday weekend. All right, where do we want to head to next, Carlene?
Let's do some weather.
We're going to do weather? Okay, that's what I just wanted to make sure. It's all right. So, again, speaking of Easter, it's been pretty uneventful weather-wise.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually been a nice couple of days. It's chilly in the morning, and then when I get out of work and I get into my car, it's hot.
Warm. It's hot. I was going to say warm. It's hot. It's hot. So, look, we're not meteorologists. We just know what it feels like outside and enjoy what we're seeing so far. So we want to get to the actual expert. Meteorologist Chris Mulcahy is here with your forecast.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy, and who's ready for a warm weekend? It's going to be fantastic today. 84 degrees, much warmer than we were about 24 hours ago. Temperatures in the mid-80s, a 10-degree upgrade. It's feeling more actually like early June, and it's warm throughout, even 72 degrees up in Boone. If you go to the night's game, well, it's going to be perfectly dry. Even by the end of the game, the fireworks are going off. Temperatures still in the lower 70s, dry throughout. We'll be a little bit breezy from time to time. Lows overnight tonight will have about a 5-10 mile per hour wind, only dropping down to about 60 degrees, so well above the climatological average by about 10 degrees, and then still the lower 50s up in the high country. Low temperatures over the next 10 days, we have 60 to 66, and then we're up and down, up and down. They don't move too much, especially next week, as we have more cloud cover that starts to move on in. And then tomorrow, high temperatures are going to be around 87 to 88 degrees. This is going to keep things really close to the record that we have going forward. So the warmest temperature we've had so far, 88 degrees. As we continue throughout the rest of the week, temperatures are going to come down a little bit. So I think really it's going to be a near tie on Sunday, Easter Sunday to Saturday. I think we're going to be a little bit closer to about that 88 degree point for the Charlotte area. So here's how close we are going to be to that record. The record 89, likely not going to be hit, but hey, close enough. Near record-breaking high on Saturday. For your Easter Sunday, you are expecting those temperatures to meander into the mid-80s by the middle of the afternoon. I think overall it's going to be a mostly cloudy day. You might have some peeps of sunshine as you work your way through the day, but all in all, I think the clouds are going to win out for our main cloud cover. So nothing too sweet as far as the views, but temperatures, well, they're fantastic. As far as our rainfall chances go, we're really going specific here. You can see that we have a scattered rain chance heading through Tuesday and Wednesday, and then on Thursday, that's where things really start to ramp up. So here's the changes that we're looking at. We have a cold front that starts to push into the area, I would say late on Monday night heading into Tuesday. That's where I think we're going to cloud things up even more. Definitely going to have more clouds than sunshine going forward, and that's why today is actually the most sun-filled day that we're going to have over the next 7, because we head into an active pattern. This cold front is going to slow down once it reaches the Carolinas. That could bring some widespread rain for your Tuesday, but then it starts to exhaust itself. So as long as there's a frontal boundary here and it's being fed moisture, what's likely going to happen is we have showers pop up during the afternoon. Some could trigger some thunderstorms because we're warm enough, and then they start to die out during the evening, and then we rinse and repeat. Do that again on Wednesday, even a chance for some thunderstorms. But what we're looking at going forward is if this front turns into a stationary front, meaning that it pretty much just parks itself over the Carolinas, we could be seeing days of rain. So we're not looking at any long-range models saying this is a flood threat, something that we're certainly watching closely, where we desperately need the rain because our drought monitor came out yesterday and most of our area here in Charlotte under a moderate drought status, which is level 1 of an official drought. As for that atmospheric moisture, it's not really here this weekend. Could feel a little bit sticky in the mornings, but it actually starts feeling more humid once you reach the middle of the week. I think that's going to be better storm fuel and rain potential. That's one thing that's going to kick those rain totals down overall is the amount of moisture. So we're feeling great for the time being, but we will be using words like feeling humid again by the back end of the forecast. So our Guy Roofing 7-day forecast has temperatures in the mid to the upper 80s both days this weekend. Cloudier skies for your Easter Sunday. After that, mixed clouds and sunshine before clouds start to take over on Monday. And then you can see those temperatures leveling out to either side of 80 degrees through the middle of the week, with right now the best chance for rain this coming Thursday. Happy Easter weekend, everyone. Take care and enjoy.
That was a forecast from meteorologist Chris Mulcahy. Yes, it looks like a fantastic weekend for Easter. It's going to be warm this Easter weekend, so enjoy that. All right, so we want to get to a story that we've been following. But actually, this is a new interview that we got this morning into our newsroom. So I just want to paint the picture for you. So this week, civil rights attorney Ben Crump filed a federal lawsuit to seek damages for Shanquella Robinson's family. So if you remember, Robinson died back in 2022 while on vacation in Mexico with 6 other people. At the time, the group said she died from alcohol poisoning, but a death certificate from Mexico showed she died from a spinal cord injury and a broken neck. A viral video shows Robinson being attacked by someone on the trip with her, and the FBI says there's not enough evidence to prosecute in this case. So again, this week, we got an update from civil rights activist and attorney Ben Crump on behalf of Robinson's family. Let's listen into the interview. Our Anders Hare spoke. He's our digital content producer here at WCNC Charlotte. He spoke with Reverend Greg Drumbright. He is a national activist and has been involved with this case. He works with attorney Ben Crump. Also has been working with the family of Shanquella Robinson. Let's listen into that interview.
Attorney Crump broke the news of the latest development of legal action, a federal lawsuit that has been filed with his co-counsel to seek $100 million of damages for the Robinson family due to the lack of diligence in the federal government pursuing justice on the behalf of Shanquella Robinson. It is very clear and apparent to anyone that is able to see that what happened to her played out on video, that she was murdered. And even though it was beyond the borders of the United States, there are still other cases, such as the Casey Anthony case, and her killing that played out outside of our borders overseas. But the United States was able to diligently seek legal action and justice for her case. So Ben Crump and his law firm and his co-counselors are still asking the federal government to be accountable for their lack of pursuance to those and to bring to justice her case, those folks that are responsible for her death. So $100 million being Crump law firm announces with co-counsel there, they're going to be pursuing this lawsuit.
Okay. You may not be able to speak to this either, but why now? I mean, I feel like it kind of speaks to the idea that maybe at this point their portion of the original case is over, but now this new case. Why the timing? Why now?
Well, anyone who is in the business of advocacy, justice work, and as Attorney Crump is well known for pursuing justice through the legal system, understands that these things take time. The case is still within the statute of limitations, and so we shouldn't be asking why now. We should be asking why not now. The investigation.
We want to shift away from that interview again. That is an interview with Reverend Greg Drumright on the state of the lawsuit, new federal lawsuit on behalf of Shanquella Robinson's family. All right, so we want to take you live now as there is a change of command at the International Space Station. Let's give you a look here, a live look. Again, change of command at the International Space Station. So let's listen in.
Спасибо всем людям, преподавателям, инструкторам, которые готовили нас к космическому полету, которые поддерживали нас, сопровождали во время космического полета. Также большое спасибо всем ЦУПам, ЦУПу Хьюстона, ЦУПу Хансвилла, Цукубы.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. I just want to point out that what you're hearing right now is not in English. It's in Russian. This man is from Russia. So, yes, again, you're watching the change of command at the International Space Station. Just wanted to give you a heads up in case you're watching and you don't know what's going on. But this is what's going on. He's speaking in Russian. Let's listen in.
We walk together. We relax together. Also, I want to say big thank you all people, instructors who prepared us, who supported us during our flight. Big thank you all MCCs, MCC Houston, Munich, Tsukuba, Huntsville, Moscow. Thank you very much for your help, for your support. And also big thank you our families, our children. Their support help us during all our flight. Time to change command. This is a key from ISS. Now it's your key. Take care. Our station, it's our everything.
Спасибо, Алексей. Я принимаю командование МКС. Вы продемонстрировали отличное лидерство. Спасибо за это. И помощь, и дружбу. Желаю вам мягкой посадки. Thank you very much, Alexei. It's a great honor for me to accept the command of the ISS, and I feel so special that I am taking over the command from you. It's because it's been almost 9 years since we met here in 2016 during Expedition 48. At that time, both of us were rookies, and here we are, two veterans who are ISS commanders. Human spaceflight is not easy. Only continuous dedication from generation to generation made it possible for human beings to get here. And now today we have 4 rookies, and I'm sure one day they will come back and become commanders. It's just like the passing the torch. And I believe that's how we will continue to develop human spaceflight. And now I'd like to say a couple of words in Japanese. 日本の皆さん応援本当にありがとうございます。本日2025年4月18日に国際宇宙ステーションの指揮権を継承してコマンダーに就任しました。今回このような大役をいただけたのもひとえに私の努力によるものではなく、これまで希望の運用ですとかコウノトリによる物資の補給といった日本の有人宇宙開発に対する貢献が国際社会の中で認められ、そしてまた未来に対して期待されている証だと思ってます。なのでその期待に応えられるよう全力で頑張っていきたいと思います。Then switch back to English. So Alexei, Ivan, and Don, thank you so much for accepting us so kindly when we arrived here. You guys have been showing us the ropes since then, and we had such a great time with you guys. It's been such a privilege for us to work with you, so we will miss you. We have a lot of exciting work ahead of us, so we will continue to do our best just like you guys did. And I hope we can see each other again on the ground. We wish you a safe and soft landing.
Everyone on the ground says thank you to you all. Looking forward to a great next expedition.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Happy Good Friday. Does that make sense? Happy Good Friday? Happy Good Friday, folks. You're watching the Chain of Command. Vanessa said no, that does not make sense. She shook her head. She said no.
The whole season, it's a season of rebirth and such. Good Friday is when Jesus died.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're right.
Nick and I are not. We're not Catholic, so we are.
I'm sorry. Yeah. We're
the whole season, like the whole
year,
obviously leads up to a happy, rebirth and.
Vanessa's schooling me right now.
Yeah, we're learning. This is
Happy Friday. That's what I meant to say. She's now leaving the studio. Happy Friday.
We tried.
We tried. We're not trying to make light of anything.
We really tried.
We're just trying to bring some joy and happiness to the folks here now. But yeah, thank you for staying with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Look, guys, it has been a busy week, a busy past couple of days. We know it's been a lot, so thank you for hanging with us. So we're approaching the top of the hour. Behind me, as I just mentioned, Vanessa Rufus is here in the studio schooling me, but no, it's fine. I love embarrassing Vanessa, but she at the top of the hour she'll join us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'll see you at 4:00. But until then, we want to get to Chimney Rock, where that area was absolutely, just like a lot of places and people there in Western North Carolina, devastated by Hurricane Helene. They're working to recover, open back up. Businesses are in the midst of working to reopen there. Our Jessie Pierre went up to Chimney Rock recently. She spoke with Shane Zuccoli with the organization Spokes of Hope. They did a ride along through the area. We want to take you there now to their full interview. Just listen in.
Good. Okay, so welcome to Chimney Rock, and my name's Shane Zuccoli. I'm just founder director of Spokes of Hope, and we're the organization that was here about a week and a half after it started, and we've been here ever since. What are we pushing, 7 months now? But as we stood here as an organization and looked up this gorge right here for the very first time, none of this was here. It was down to the river height. Everything was washed away. There was debris everywhere. There was no asphalt. There was no raised road. There was none of this. It was a destructive mess of trillions of gallons that come down through Black Mountain into this gorge. And Chimney Rock was the last stop of debris and the water force that ended up in Lake Lure. So what we see right now wasn't here. So I'll take you for a ride up the gorge here in a little bit and show you the thens and the nows and the progresses and where we're still working towards. So there was no access here close to 7 months ago, and the state and NCDOT and Wright Brothers is the contractor that was acquired to do the road work here. It's been amazing. They've beaten all the rules and the time frames and everything. They're just an amazing construction company that has moved so many millions and millions of tons of dirt and gravel and stone and moved through this whole gorge up here to make it accessible all the way up into Bat Cave. So, but as you can see off to your sides and everything, houses are still off of their foundations, destroyed. Working through the process, which is treated like an emergency room. So as we first get here, it's about sustaining life, and then after that, it's assessing and see who needs the greatest amount of help, and the needs and assessments happen. So houses are still needing demoed. Houses that used to be there, I think there's 3 homes here that never made it, and they were washed down the river. But it's just been an amazing time where over 2,000 volunteers have come through our organization, working in coalition with 180 Disaster Relief. It's just been incredible. My counterparts from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Terry Henshaw, with provision and supplies and skilled trades. The state of Pennsylvania, and specifically Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Amish have partnered with us, and we're averaging 50 to 70 volunteers, skilled, coming in every week after week, committed to a year's worth of work to help build back this town. And as we come up here on the right, you'll see the new buildings that are pine and beautiful structures that were washed away. We've rebuilt some of these. This is Dogwood Campground on the right, devastated by storms, with probably 50 mobile homes, trailers, camping grounds, and James is to a place now where he's getting a little bit better. But the building to your right there, you see, that's all been built by Amish and us, and that'll be a new little intake office for campgrounds. And his property, he lost 2/3 of his property, so almost to the river in the center is what he lost to.
You know, here we are more than 6 months later. Like, how do you feel seeing this work that's being done? I see a bridge was washed out over here, it looks like.
Yep, this is a temporary railroad car, actually. This is a bridge they're going to use temporarily, and I'll show you why. See, the position of this road was put in place on purpose because off to your right, if you shoot down over there, the road used to be over there to the right, even more to the right. The road was there on the back side of the campground, and it reconnected at the top over there. So they've rebuilt the roads over here so they can do the work over there to put the road back originally where it was. And that's throughout the whole gorge. They've designed this road to where they can do the future work and still have egress traffic coming down through and be able to do their work over there to where we don't have to worry about traffic and detours and getting really public through an area that needs built back over there.
That makes sense. So how does it feel to see this work where it is today?
Well, I mean, emotionally, you had to have been here from the very beginning, but it'll make you cry when you see the progress and the hands and feet that have come here with the government side, with the volunteer side, the free, the profit, the nonprofits, everyone that's touched this valley to bring it to this place. It'll bring you to your knees in tears because it's impossible to do it by yourself. And the reward is, when we work together, we can do amazing things, and that's what I feel inside. I feel the reward of really being that leadership, maybe the spearhead in a lot of cases, to bring us to a point where, I mean, I mean, we're putting homes together, brand new roofs and tree damage and things that was just we're way ahead. When you have 70 people a week, even on a normal paid profit construction company, to keep 70 people a week is pretty challenging, you know. But it's an amazing thing to see when you can rebuild a whole valley in a short period of time. Now, there's a long way to go. Don't you get me mistaken. There's so much to do, but the momentum's still there. This is the Esmeralda. We sleep volunteers in the basement. We help them get this back into order. The state of North Carolina has leased this place for the workers to be closer to the job site. They're putting their money more into staying close to these roads right here, so the workers come right out here and they're already on the job. So this is all an area where the rebuild of this road will be for the next year or so, but it'll be the final build. It won't be the temporary side. You know, up into the mountains, trees everywhere. A lot of the chainsaw work's already been done. We're getting ready to build a house up on the hill here. A mother and a daughter and a husband and 2 kids were in their house. You can see the chimney on top of the hill up there. We're about to build a new house around that chimney. The chimney is historic, and the home we're going to rebuild for this family that lost their home, we're going to put them right back on their new place up there. Their house used to be there, and it washed away. And they were going to take their grandma's home and build around that chimney and give them a brand new home up there.
And where's the family today?
They're displaced. They're living with other family members until we get this home built. They've already picked the home they're going to build, and Habitat for Humanity is going to fund it for them. So everything's going to be free to the homeowner. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a miracle. You know, this used to be a bridge. This is an example of what bridges look like after the storm. The beams used to be there. They've taken them away. Army Corps is working now diligently up the riverbed to just bring back the beauty of the river and the debris, take it away. But this was a bridge to that side, and maybe they'll build it back again. Maybe they won't. It's hard to say. You know, the landscape has changed. Absolutely. But the resiliency of the people has increased. You know, it's amazing when you lose something, but you gain something. It's the moment when you're knocked down, but then all of a sudden the hearts build you back up and stand up. The people in this valley, in this gorge, in western North Carolina, they're the true story. They're the heroes because they're the ones that have been impacted. We're just blessed to be able to come in and help them in such a way that they allow us to help. Because, you know, you got people coming into your backyard saying, trust me, trust me, trust me. It takes a lot of trust to let someone into your home and just tear it all down to the stud and gut it all the way out and then rebuild it back. And they're right there with us. The resilience is amazing, amazing. But the gorge itself, it goes all the way up in the back cave, and I can take you up and show you the same thing. But what we'll do, Jesse, is we'll turn around and I'll take you back into town and show you what that town looks like, and I'll share down there what we faced in the very beginning and how I almost regretted even coming because I was afraid it was too big. Yeah. Oh, girl, when you say yes to something and then you really see the reality of it and you go, oh, maybe I can't do that. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. But God, you know, then God shows up and just says, yeah, we can do it. You handle it. Will you trust me?
So now you're saying you have 70 volunteers that come every week.
We have a charter bus paid for by the Lancaster community in Pennsylvania. They get themselves down here to us. They stay in a camp, they sleep, they eat there. We pick them up with our buses and we bring them down to all of our different job sites, help them with the tools. We supply the tools, they bring their hand tools, and they bring their skill and their passion, and they just, along with us, just rebuild anything we put in front of them. They fix, they rebuild, they tear it down. They're here to serve this community, and they've committed to a year. And at the pace we're going, we can get a lot done in 1 year. And we get it, you know. A lot of organizations move on, or the media goes away, you know, and it's just the nature of, you know, moving forward. But if we really had to catch up with disaster relief, we probably have to go 10 years backwards. And it's a joy when I see you show up saying, hey, let's see the story 6 months later, and you know, let's not forget the people, and man, I'm here to see the progress. And those are them little miracles along the way that continue the hope. The hope comes from us. You know, a lot of people think the disaster is in the building, and it is. And we got destruction all around us, but the true disaster is in the heart of the people where they're broken because they've lost everything and they don't have insurance for floods and they're just relying on whatever resources they can come across. So having you show up today is just a blessing to the people. You don't realize, that you have the power to bring more hope through your lens and through your voice. You bring hope to this valley.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's true. This is the Hickory Nut Campground. Bennett and his wife own this. Again, you see the destruction. You see he had campers and roads out in the center here where the river was, and it's all gone. But we're working with Bennett. He's an incredible guy. He's a fighter. His family's a fighting family, and they're it's gonna be different, but it's gonna be okay. It's a windy day in the gorge, though. Usually about once or twice a month, Jesse, the wind comes howling down through here, and it will push you.
And now, obviously when there was winter and the cold, it was a heavy winter, not much work could get done during that time, right?
We worked on things that we could work on. We kind of did it in a way that we could have inside work in town. So that's scheduling sometimes. Once a disaster site turns into a construction site, you can control that. We had heaters inside blowing heat, so we were okay. But again, the resiliency doesn't allow you to quit, so you work in the cold just like you work in the hot.
Right.
So watch your bump. I'm going to take you down into the riverbed. That way you can see the back of the stores and get a feel for, again, the debris down through this river gorge was horrible. That's Terry and Brian's house. That's a story in itself. Those folks they're broken. The insurance didn't cover them from flooding, so they lost everything. They have nothing to put it back. So they've said to us, please deconstruct that home. Take everything out that you can and use for people that they could put towards their house forward. And it's just the beauty of people giving back. Yeah. There's probably $5,000 to $10,000 worth of things in there we can save that'll save someone else on the rebuild that we do down the road a little bit here. It's amazing.
It doesn't look like it was too old of a house either.
And look, if you look over your left shoulder, when you talk about building your house on a rock,
yeah,
that house was built on a rock.
The house with the red door.
Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah. Stayed solid on there.
It did. It's a stone house built on that. Look at the size of that rock. It's amazing. All right, so let's come on down the valley here a little bit. You got the best view lodge over here. Took a massive hit. The roofs were destroyed. The mud was 4 foot through the building. Since then, we've cut it all out and got things ready to go. Beds and chimney rock are going to be tricky. They've lost, probably a third of their sleeping capacity for this tourist town. And so every bed counts. So we're really fighting for the business sector here because the sector here is about 250 jobs lost. State Park still closed, 50 employees there. It's really important for the business side to stand back up because without the business here, it's hard to support the valley here.
Right, and like you said, it's a tourist town, so that's the bulk of their income.
Yes, so jobs and peace. This town, even as destroyed as this town was, I could see the beauty in this town. And it took me a minute. I had to sit on Google Earth one night at midnight. Everybody kept telling me how beautiful. It's like God did not bring me to Chimney Rock for some reason.
Yeah.
And I just didn't see the beauty of Chimney Rock. I'd never seen it. And I sat down on Google Earth one night at about midnight, and about 2:30 in the morning, I realized how beautiful Chimney Rock was.
Yeah.
When you drag and streetscape all the way up through these, and I'm like, oh my goodness gracious, that was beautiful. The greenery, the way and I took it in. I took it all the way in, Jesse. I could see the beauty.
History here
so it's totally changed, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now in the future, I'm going to back up a little bit. We're going to reverse. I'm going to show you something, Jesse. It's important to know for the future. Over my left side, in the center of town, when the road comes up, the new plan that's already been approved by NCDOT, it's going to be better than what it was. There's going to be a roundabout right over this area. There'll be a new bridge that goes to the state park this way, the road up in the back cave, a turn that goes up into Chimney Rock's parking lot, the fire department of access. It's going to be an improvement to the town, beautiful roundabout area right here. So the new roads have already been planned, and they're hoping to start that construction sometime within the year. They'll start on it. Again, Wright Brothers are amazing. If I was a state and I could hire a contractor, Wright Brothers would be the company.
Yeah.
You know, when you pay somebody to do a ways and they work so hard because they know it's so important to get it done, it's like they're working 2 10-hour days, their effort, and they're just hard workers. So as we come...
All right, folks, thanks for joining us here on Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus, taking over for Nick Sturdivant. We were just looking there at a ride-along our reporter Jesse Pierre did in Chimney Rock with a group that's been helping out in the area. As we know, an area that was extremely hard hit by Hurricane Helene more than 6 months ago. So we are hearing her ride-along with the founder of Spokes of Hope, which has been helping out there, an organization. And just a heads up as far as keeping it here on WCNC Plus throughout the evening. We're actually going to see this as part of a larger piece that Jesse is doing on the recovery of Chimney Rock. She also spoke with the mayor, who had some pretty heartbreaking statistics that we heard him talking about, essentially 100% unemployment that's been underway in Chimney Rock since the hurricane devastated them. It's just really been a tough go, but they, as you've seen here with that snippet that we ran just now with the ride-along, have been receiving a lot of support from the community, and of course they remain optimistic that there will be a comeback for Chimney Rock. So once again, keep it here on WCNC Plus. We're going to see Jesse's full piece in just a bit. Meantime, we want to turn to a big update and a big story for our area over the last 24 hours, and that is a really heartbreaking story of a school bus that overturned in Chester County yesterday afternoon around this time of day. And we're learning a bit more about who died. And unfortunately, as we've been telling you throughout the day, a 13-year-old boy in the 8th grade is what we're hearing. Chester County coroner confirming as the person who passed away following this incident. So some brand new information we're getting as well. The boy's name, Jose Maria Gonzalez Linares. And I know initially earlier in the day we were talking about how we weren't going to release his name. We were hearing at first that the family didn't want his name out there for privacy, but they apparently changed their mind, and so now they are okay for us to share that information. And just as far as community support, if we can speak on that for just a bit, I mean, we have been seeing, for example, the school where, you know, he attended, Pine Ridge Middle School, trying to wrap its arms around this family and also the community. They're raising money for his family. And earlier today, we knew for about a 3-hour window, while they didn't have school itself, they had basically services that folks could come and partake in as far as, you know, do they need support? Do they need to talk to somebody? Do they need counselors? So this is something that is obviously going to sit with the community for a long time as a heavy tragedy, but everyone does seem to be coming together here to try to support each other. A quick recap of, you know, what we've learned here now that all of the pieces are starting to come in as far as what happened and who was impacted. This was, as we told you yesterday afternoon, a field trip. They had 3 school buses from this West Columbia school, Pine Ridge Middle School. They were actually in the Charlotte area on a field trip, and they were on their way back, going down 77 southbound, heading back to their home when, unfortunately, a tire blew out on that bus. And you can see some of the aerials from yesterday. We had our drones overhead giving us an overhead look, and you can see basically how that bus wiped out there, went through a guardrail, you can see on that right-hand side, and basically turned over onto its side. We knew that, you know, more than 30 people were trapped inside this bus for a period of time, mostly students, a handful of adults, and you know, sadly, as we mentioned, one child lost his life because of this, and we knew that multiple other people were hurt, in fact, with some pretty serious injuries as well. So We look to keep you posted on this story as we learn more about, updated conditions, anything like that. We'll certainly keep you posted. In the meantime, we're diving in today on an interesting thread. I think that this is something that a lot of folks are asking in the wake of this crash. What are the safety precautions on school buses? And we did a Verify piece last night, and we have more in depth on it for you today. But essentially talking about how there aren't really full requirements for seatbelts to be on buses in the Carolinas. And in South Carolina, it sounds like this could be a particularly tricky situation because you can't add belts onto buses, old buses in South Carolina. So it would require them, if they were going to make this a necessity, to buy new buses, which is obviously an investment. But we know that there has been a push in recent years to try to make this a requirement. So we do invite you to keep it here on WCNC Plus throughout the evening, because our team is starting to pull on that thread a bit, seeing what some of the advocates on the side of seatbelts are saying, and maybe some of the obstacles that we've been seeing along the way to getting this done, and what are the arguments for both sides of this story. So that is one element for sure that we'll be sharing with you this evening. And of course, anything else that we are getting as far as updates on this unfortunate incident involving the school bus, we will have that for you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Getting a lot of updates throughout the day, actually. We want to turn now to McDowell County because we're getting some brand new images today of firefighting efforts up in the high country. So this is McDowell County wildfire that's been underway for a few days at this point. And unfortunately, it does continue to grow. And the containment, while that is slightly rising as well, it is still on the lower side. So this has been called the B Rock Creek Fire. And we know that there are multiple teams out there. In fact, we've been hearing from Forest Service that 180 personnel have been out there, and you can see some of these new videos that we're getting from U.S. Forest Service showing them dumping those, fire suppressants over the forest there. This is something they're really trying to get a handle on, but they say they've been dealing with, a few issues. Obviously, earlier in the week, we were dealing with gusts, which never helps with firefighting efforts. We also know that they've been dealing with some pretty steep terrain and some rocky terrain, so that can be difficult for them to physically navigate through and get through, all the areas they feel they want to get some containment going. And they also are dealing with a lot of debris from Helene, which has been kind of a storyline we've been seeing with a lot of these wildfires here in the Carolinas over recent weeks. I mean, I pretty much have heard this with every single big fire that we've covered. The fire crews out there saying that debris from Hurricane Helene has played a big role in fueling some of these fires because there's just so much of it out there. And, quite frankly, with all of the cleanup efforts, you're going to focus probably primarily on cleaning up the cities and the towns and neighborhoods and such before you start to maybe even think about, all the debris that might be in relatively unpopulated areas. So you can see there. Oh, look, this new video we're getting showing some of the haziness out there. We are hearing about air quality alerts for folks in this area. I believe at last check, it was around moderate as far as the air quality. So that might be a concern for more sensitive groups that might be wanting to, for example, stay inside and whatnot. But we'll keep an eye on that. But as far as the size and containment here, we're seeing now up to 856 acres and 10% containment, which is an improvement from recent days because for a couple of days we were actually seeing it at 0 containment. So that's an improvement, but once again, that's still on the lower side. And keep in mind the containment percentage, our Megan Bragg did a verify on this. That doesn't necessarily mean it's 10% out. That is just really lingo that pertains to a fire line that might be around the perimeter of a wildfire, where once they get to 100% containment, it doesn't necessarily mean the fire is 100% out, but they do feel like they have it 100% surrounded, where they feel somewhat confident that it's not going to jump across a fire line or anything like that. Certainly important to mention, speaking of the fire moving and jumping across, I believe after the first day that we heard about this, there was actually an instance of this fire crossing over a creek, and it actually spread 50 more acres afterwards. So with that in mind, we know that there are some evacuations that are still in place in that area. The good news is we haven't seen those evacuations expanded at all, but it looks like the original ones are still in place, and those are for homes that are on Wild Acres Road in the area of Little Switzerland. And as far as what crews are doing, by the way, you can see here the Forest Service map for North Carolina kind of showing some of the more active fires. And even when you look at the brown dots, those are obviously not as active anymore. They feel like they have those pretty much contained. Those, when you look at that bigger picture, the green dots, the red dots, the brown dots, those are all fires that our crews have been working on in recent weeks. And so it just really paints a picture of how busy they've been this season with just the winds that we've been dealing with and how dry it's been. But, you know, I was talking about a few moments ago the efforts to try to protect the structures out there. Aside from getting folks evacuated out who need to for safety, crews have been telling us that they are cutting the brush away from the structures. They're trying to create defensible spaces where the fire might not be able to get as close to structures out here. So there's been a lot of work underway, not only to fight the fire itself, but also trying to prevent that fire from getting too close and endangering people's livelihoods. Keep in mind, this is an area that's been through a lot already, as we mentioned with Helene, and so any further damage that they can avoid to this community, they're certainly going to try to do that. So I would urge folks, because weather is always a big topic here when it comes to these wildfires, to keep it here on WCNC Plus, because we have our weather impact team coming up in just a little bit this evening, where we'll be talking about some of the conditions out there and how that either might be helping or hurting firefighters. As a quick nutshell, because we did check in with our Brittany Van Voorhees for a few moments as far as, you know, what can you tell us in a nutshell about the fire conditions? It sounds like, thankfully, we're dealing with slightly more humidity, and unfortunately, we are seeing a little bit more gustiness today, but she was saying essentially that kind of cancels out as far as the fire risk. So it seems to be kind of around the same as we've been seeing yesterday. But she will certainly have much more for us coming up on the evening news. Now, with that, we want to turn our attention to another big topic that's, I don't want to say it's not local, because this is definitely a local issue, but this specific case that I'm about to talk about is out of California, and certainly a lot of parents are going to be concerned about this. But this is a case where there was a 10-year-old girl who went missing out of California, and come to find out, she was found, and this was after authorities say a 27-year-old man who had been communicating with her through a popular gaming site called Roblox, had actually made contact with her, started messaging her there, and also on the platform Discord, which is another way folks communicate with each other. And I think typically it's more of a gamer site, at least that's how it started, for gamers to speak with each other. But keep in mind here, 10-year-old child was kidnapped here. And this really just brings to light some of the concerns over social media that some folks have raised as far as what protections are in place for these platforms, which we know, in some gaming instances, you might have a lot of kids who are on there. And in fact, we've been seeing recently, just this week, just yesterday, the state of New Jersey actually filed a suit against Discord over, its concerns, the state's concerns with how protections were being put in place and how some of these platforms can be used for wrong. It's important to note Discord even came up with a big case in our area in a limited scope from what we could see at this point, but the Madalena Kojikari case, that missing girl out of Cornelius, which you'll remember just days ago we marked her birthday, so yet another birthday where she is still missing, the community holding onto hope to find her. But our Nate Morabito was actually able to dig up some court documents fairly recently. This was just a few weeks ago in this case, where he was able to see some of the things that law enforcement was trying to look into to try to cover all bases to see where could she have gone, was there something going on in her life that we didn't know about, and the fact that she seemingly had a Discord account actually came up in some of these documents, and it looked like it was interesting enough that authorities wanted to look into that more, and they wanted to see some of the communications that she might have been having on this app. So with that said, I mean, this is a broader picture, and certainly impactful for our area. I wanted to bring in an earlier sit down that I did with a group called Present Age Ministries. And so they're out of the Concord area, and they play a really big role in sort of like the recovery process, I guess I'll say, for young girls, young women, teens who have been either sexually exploited or they've been victims of human trafficking, which that kind of can go hand in hand in some cases. And when I had the sit down with Hannah Arrowwood, you know, social media definitely came up. And she talked about the fact that this is something that every parent needs to really be savvy with. And so I wanted to share some of our chat, and hopefully this will kind of bring a little bit more insight to the concerns with social media, but also maybe things that we can all do as adults to make sure that we're being present with the children in our lives and what they're doing online to hopefully avoid horrible situations like the one that we talked about in California with this 10-year-old child who was kidnapped. So let's listen in now.
One of the common threads that we have, I would say almost with 100% of our victims, is links to social media. So that's either how they're being exploited, it's how they met their trafficker, it's how they interacted with people that were promoting to pay for these services. And so it really is a playground. I mean, that's a great term to put it, except it's not a fun game, right? And so often social media is now become the thing that this generation doesn't know a world without. You know, for those of us that are, 30 and older, we know a world before social media. This generation that's being raised now doesn't know a world pre-social media. And so that has become their norm and the interface of life. When you ask a 13-year-old, how many social media accounts do you have? It's not, do you have an Instagram and a Facebook and a TikTok and a Snapchat? It's how many of each of those do you have? And I think that's part of the gap that we have between generations that we have to bridge, because it's just normal, and we have to now then put different safeguards in place because it is such a reality for these kids.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the generational differences. I mean, the folks who, I guess you might say, are not digital native, didn't grow up with digital everywhere. Yeah. They are the parents now, and maybe they aren't necessarily thinking about all of the different ways, because they just think about the ways that they might have had a pitfall when they were younger.
Yeah, I tell parents all the time, they're like, I'm not tech savvy. I said, you better become tech savvy, right? Because the analogy that I use is that we would never hand a weapon or a gun to a 13-year-old and not teach them and explain to them how to put the safety on, how to make sure that it's not loaded. You would go to great lengths to make sure that they were safe around that weapon, and yet we hand them a phone and we have no conversations about safety or parental controls and how to safeguard. And so it's no longer excuse parents to say you're not tech savvy. You better become tech savvy if you're going to make sure that your kids have access to technology, and there has to be some safeguards around that, and that if we're not, we're doing a disservice and a disadvantage to our kiddos.
Are there certain apps that parents should be looking out for?
All of them. If it's a social media platform, it has the potential to be a place of recruitment and grooming. We've had interactions with all of the major ones, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. There used to be Kik, and then you have, so really, it really makes no difference. And they're also creating new apps every day. All of your dating apps really are playgrounds for recruitment, because people go on there, and that is a place where traffickers know people are looking for interaction and attention and for love, really. Wow. And so it's just a great way, and it's easy for a trafficker to go, okay, let me see who looks desperate. Let me see who is using code words that are used on the dark web for wanting a child. There's all of that. World is just real, whether people are exposed to it or not. And so if it exists on the web, then there's the chance it could be used for this type of interactions. I think it's just important to know that there is a language that exists on the dark web that alludes to and promotes things that most of us would never want to even acknowledge that is real. So sex with children, sex with young boys, different types of way of engaging, all of that exists. And of course they don't just blankly say it. And so we have to just realize that that's real and not pretend that just because we don't see it on a daily basis doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
You must feel maybe a little frustrated to not hear this talked about more, maybe? Just you've made this your
it's
life's
my life
work.
mission. This is what I'll do for my life. I think I have to always remind myself, Hannah, you do this every day, not everybody else does. Because when you hear stories on a daily basis of children, I mean, we have 12-year-olds that we work with. We have 11-year-olds that we work with. We have 16-year-olds. And I mean, their life has been utterly turned upside down into chaos. And the only time you really hear about it is if someone is convicted and there's a sentence. Well, that happens so infrequently that it just isn't newsworthy oftentimes. And so for me, we'll take every opportunity, but what I tell everybody, this happens every day. So just because you're hearing about it once a year or twice a year, don't forget that it's still happening the 364 other days of the year.
All right, so once again, that was an extended sit-down that I had with the founder of Present Age Ministries, Hannah Arrowwood. Her group specifically deals with trying to help young girls and teen women recover from any sort of exploitation or tough situation that they've been in. So they see, in the Mecklenburg County area, Charlotte area, young girls who have either been trafficked or they've been exploited. And you heard her talking about one of the big issues and kind of common threads amongst all of the girls and young women that they deal with. Social media tends to come up as a way that their abuser or their trafficker or their exploiter was able to come into contact with them and actually exploit them. If you are interested in this topic, by the way, I did want to throw out here on the WCNC Plus app, I actually had an hour-long human trafficking special that included a even larger sit-down with Hannah. If you'd like to see that, we also talk with Rowan County Sheriff Travis Allen in depth about one of their big busts where they had folks who they were able to arrest, I believe 5 or so folks that were contacting them. They had deputies posing as young kids online, and they were able to basically lure in folks who wanted to have sex with children, and they were able to bust them. But he talked about some of the difficulties with these types of operations, but the importance of them. And quite frankly, as a law enforcement officer of so many years, he mentioned how he was so surprised that it was so easy and it was so quick to go online and find people who wanted to do really just terrible things with children. So you can find that once again here on the WCNC Plus app. If you go over to the shows tab, which is going to be at the top, and you go down to scroll down to the in-depth section, that's actually, I believe it's the second in-depth piece that we have kind of in that menu selection. So you can actually learn a bit more. It's focused on human trafficking. We did that back in January during Human Trafficking Awareness Month. But I'll say, straight up, when I was talking to all these experts and advocates, they were saying, so glad that we're talking about this in January on Human Trafficking Awareness Month, but this is something that people should be aware of all year long, and we should be talking about all year long. So in that, effort, in that regard, I advise you go ahead and check out that special. With that, we want to turn now to some breaking news that's just coming into the Live Impact News studio here. So we want to take you out to a look at an area where we're keeping an eye. This is Taylorsville. So this is the Alexander County area where we're hearing that authorities are responding to an airplane crash. So limited details, but it sounds like some good news. The pilot here, a 74-year-old man from Morganton, and the passenger, although they had to go to the hospital, there are minor injuries here. So, no worse than that as far as injuries, which is some good news to hear, but nevertheless a very scary situation, and there are some injuries indeed to report in some respects. But this happened just before 1 o'clock this afternoon. You're seeing a look at a map of the general area. So if you're familiar with this area, this is the 5500 block of Rink Dam Road, and this was a crash that involved a single engine plane. We're told it's a 1947 Peyton Pole single engine plane, and I'm not sure if it's a historical model. We're going to try to pull up some images for you here so you just kind of have an idea of what this plane looks like. But we're told that this pilot here, his name's Gregory Allen Deal, was trying to land at a private field when the plane crashed. And so
I just Googled the plane model, and this is what it kind of looks like. You can see it's a very old kind of historic plane. Yeah, and I mean, I'm not an aviation expert, but it's giving, post Wright brothers. Yes. 100%. Yeah. You've got the single wing there. It's a small plane, as we mentioned. The authorities. So this information was coming from North Carolina State Highway Patrol. I mean, they flat out said this is a 1947 plane. So we just wanted to make you aware of that situation that is underway. Sounds like Highway Patrol is securing the scene. FAA, as we would expect in any of these situations, will be coming out to do an investigation. But an issue that is the very least scary, but we're certainly thinking of the pilot and the passenger as well, because they'll be having to recover from, once again, minor injuries in this situation. Keep it here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. More updates to come on that, as well as other big stories that we're following. Carlene, it looks like we've got some images now to show. Specifically, where is this coming from? Is this Vatican? This is the Colosseum in Rome.
Oh,
this is a Good Friday service at the Colosseum.
Okay, so we know that we're in Holy Week for many Christians, celebrating today Good Friday, which was the day where Christians hold the crucifixion of Jesus and the death of Jesus. This is obviously a solemn day for many Christians, leading up to, of course, Easter on Sunday, which is a day of rebirth and new hope and joy for so many folks. But we're looking right now there at some of the events that are underway to mark today, once again, Good Friday, as we start to move through Holy Week. Of note, we are seeing, as far as, impacts and storylines to keep an eye on. From the U.S. perspective, we know that Vice President J.D. Vance actually went to partake in a Friday Mass. It sounded like he is visiting Italy. He joined a ceremony for Good Friday at St. Peter's Basilica with his family. So his wife, Usha, and their 3 young children were there. And, it is important to note, too, that this visit does come as there has been some tension between the Trump administration and the Pope Francis, and the Pope wrote some opinions regarding the immigration policies that the Trump administration has been undertaking in recent weeks. And the Pope had talked about the fact that, from a theological standpoint, folks should be caring for and welcoming neighbors. And so he was pretty sharp in his criticism of the plans that we're seeing from the Trump administration to deport many migrants, millions of migrants potentially from the U.S. And similarly, as far as like the Pope himself, we're seeing the Pope dealing with his own issues. It sounded like he didn't attend that actual Good Friday Mass that J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, went to. The Pope is still recovering from a pretty lengthy illness. He had double pneumonia, and he's still limiting his public appearances. While it does sound like we might see some now and then. I believe I did see a video of the Pope not too long ago, kind of out and about, but he's not going to be doing a lot of that in general. And it sounds like doctor's orders that he's going to be doing more rest than not, as he does continue to recover from double pneumonia. So Are you hearing any audio? I'm just curious.
Yes.
It sounds like maybe song. Are we getting
some prayer?
Okay.
Yes. So we should tell you it's Italian, but it's English dubbed over it. So
Okay.
you can't understand it.
Yeah, maybe we'll give folks a listen in here. This is once again Good Friday service at the Colosseum in Rome, Italy, marking an important day in Holy Week for Christians.
Behold my mother. Mary has no fear of judgments and insinuations. Behold my mother. Mary stands and waits. Behold my mother. Mary guides and accompanies. Behold my mother. Mary concedes nothing to death. Behold my mother.
Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Pane nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen.
Venerebat et donebat, quia mater dum videbat, nati penas incliti.
Quinta stazione.
Fifth station. Jesus is helped by Simon of Cyrene to carry the cross.
Adoramus te Christe et benedicimus tibi, quia per sanctam crucem tuam redemisti mundum.
Dal Vangelo secondo Luca.
From the Gospel according to Luke.
Mentre lo conducevano via,
as they led him away,
fermarono un
they
certo
seized a
Simone
man,
di Cirene,
Simon of
che
Cyrene,
tornava dai campi,
who was coming from the
e
country,
gli misero addosso
and they
la
laid the
croce
cross on
da
him
portare
and made
dietro
him
a
carry
Gesù.
it behind Jesus.
Non si offrì, lo fermarono.
He did not
Simone
volunteer.
tornava dal suo lavoro.
They stopped him.
E gli misero addosso
Simon was returning
la
from
croce di
his
un
work and they
condannato.
made him carry the cross
Avrà
of a
avuto il
condemned
fisico
man.
adatto, ma
He
certo
may have had the
la
right
sua
physique,
direzione era un'altra.
but surely he
Il
had
suo
something
programma
else in
era un
mind,
altro.
another
In
set
Dio
of things to do.
ci si può imbattere così.
Yet we can encounter
Chissà
God like
perché
that.
Gesù, quel
Lord,
nome,
who knows
Simone
why
di
that
Cirene,
name, Simon of
divenne
Cyrene,
presto
was never forgotten
indimenticabile
by
fra i
your
tuoi
disciples.
discepoli. Sulla via della croce,
On the way to the
loro non
cross,
c'erano,
they were not
e
there,
nemmeno noi.
nor were we.
Simone invece sì.
But Simon was.
Vale fino a oggi.
It is
Mentre
true to this
qualcuno
day.
All right, folks, looks like
This
we
is the
might have lost that feed, but once again, you're watching live Impact News on WCNC Plus. What we were just seeing there was a feed coming out of Rome, Italy, the Good Friday observance that was happening at the Colosseum. And so, we talked about, of course, the Holy Week here. We're getting closer and closer to Easter, Good Friday, marking for many Christians the crucifixion of Jesus and the death of Jesus, obviously leading up to Sunday, where folks celebrate the resurrection and new life and rebirth. So we will, of course, bring you back to any sort of events that we see popping up on that front. Meantime, I want to kind of set the table for you as we get closer to the 4 o'clock hour. Just checking here our monitors. It's not quite coming up yet, but it looks like we are expecting at some point some live images of Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen, who is returning to Dulles International Airport following his visit to El Salvador. And so for folks who have been following along with some of this case involving Kilmar Abrego Garcia, he is the man who's originally from El Salvador but was living in Maryland and had a protective order against him as far as keeping him in the country. We were told initially, due to an administrative error, deported to El Salvador, so seemingly mistakenly deported to El Salvador, and now we've been seeing this ongoing fight to try to get him back to the U.S. by some. At last check, we were hearing the judge in this case was considering some contempt orders potentially for folks either with the Trump administration or anyone who might be involved with this case for not really responding to her requests to know what exactly are you doing to try to bring back Mr. Abrego Garcia. And so we're at this point now where we've kind of heard various Trump administration officials talking about seemingly they have no interest in bringing him back. They believe he's where he needs to be. And this is part of, we mentioned before, with the deportations and flights with migrants and such. This is a situation where the Trump administration has said this is for the well-being and the safety of the country, and they have, up to this point, through various administration officials, basically said that we don't feel like we need to be doing anything to bring this person back. Important to note, we had the Supreme Court weighing in, basically leaning in favor of the judge who issued the order to bring him back. So there is kind of a butting of heads, if you will, between two major branches of our government, and so it's yet to be seen what exactly will come of that. We mentioned this Maryland senator, so Chris Van Hollen. He, on Wednesday, I believe it was, went to El Salvador. He said that his mission in going there was to lay eyes on Kilmar Abrego Garcia, since this prison where he was being held basically keeps inmates incommunicado, is what they say, but essentially no contact with the outside world. So the senator's goals, he was saying, was to just see what his condition was, lay eyes on him, speak with him. And then he also wanted to, if he could, he said, broker a phone call or some sort of communication between Mr. Garcia and his family back here in the United States. And perfect. Carlene has brought up here an image. So we know that when Senator Van Hollen landed in El Salvador on Wednesday, he said that he was denied initially. The prison that he went to go to, CCOT as it's called, did not let him in. But then late yesterday, we see this image on Senator Van Hollen's Twitter X account showing him sitting down face to face with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And as you can see here, the caption saying, "I said my main goal of this trip was to meet with Kilmar. Tonight I had that chance. I have called his wife Jennifer to pass along his message of love. I look forward to providing a full update upon my return." And so, as we mentioned, that return is imminent. And so we have kind of on the back burner a feed that we're watching, and that's Dulles International. And Carlene, I know you're probably watching it in Fuller. It's a
Waiting. That's the color bars. It will pop up with the shot.
Okay. Okay, so we're just going to keep an eye on it. It's supposed to open at any moment, this window of live feed. So I just wanted to mention that is coming up. This is going to be something that we will certainly bring to you live on Live Impact News on WCNC+. And I'm sure a lot of reporters are there waiting to ask a lot of questions. One of the things, I have a lot of questions in general about the situation, but one of the immediate thoughts that I had when I saw this post here on X was what changed. And I'm curious too about the setting, because it almost looks like they're sitting down in a restaurant or I'm not even sure. But initially we said that the senator landed in El Salvador and was denied access to CCOT to get in to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And then the next day there's this image of them sitting down together speaking. We've been seeing some reporting from NBC News that, as alluded to here in this post, the senator has contacted the wife of Mr. Abrego Garcia, and it sounded like it gave her hope. That was the quote that I basically saw, her talking about how this gave her hope. And, we know that there are a lot of folks who have been advocating, trying to fight for this case. Of course, we see folks on the other side saying that, we mentioned folks with the Trump administration saying like this is all in the name of national security, and they in fact were very critical of Senator Van Hollen going over there to El Salvador, taking it upon himself to try to broker this. Okay. Yeah, so I alluded to this a few moments ago, so Carlene has actually pulled up that post. We talked about the senator initially being denied that access into CCOT, so yeah, we'll play that video, and it's him talking, so we can listen in on that too.
I'm here with Chris Newman, who is the attorney for the wife and mother of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And we just tried to go visit him in prison just to check on his conditions. Is he doing okay? Because nobody has any communication with him since he was illegally abducted from Maryland and sent to CCOT prison in El Salvador, which is a U.S. District Court judge said was a violation of all his due process rights. Today's purpose was just to see what his health condition is. And these soldiers were ordered to prevent us from going any farther from this spot. I understand we're about 3 kilometers now from CCOT. And as you can see, they're letting other cars go by, but they stopped us because they're under orders not to allow us to proceed to check on the well-being of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
All right, so once again here, Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We've been setting the table here for what we're expecting to come up in really just moments here from what we're hearing from our sources over at NBC. We're expecting live images of Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen returning from El Salvador. He's supposed to be landing at an airport in D.C., and he's kind of teased on his X/Twitter page that he's met with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man who was mistakenly deported from Maryland to El Salvador, is being held in, by many accounts from human rights advocates, a notorious prison with questionable conditions. And there's kind of been this fight underway between folks who are saying that there was mistaken deportation, but also there have been questions about, the general principle of, sending this man away without giving him potentially due process. So once again, this is a situation where we have a lot of questions, and we're expecting the senator to address some of those based on this meeting that he said that he just had with Abrego Garcia. This image almost came up kind of a bit of a surprise to me when I was watching the feed yesterday and watching, some of the chatter that was going on around this visit, just because, we just saw that video showing the senator trying to get some answers from El Salvador, saying that he was denied. And then the very next day, there's this image here with not a lot of description, but basically saying that he was able to meet a goal of the trip, which was to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia face to face, get a look at his condition, and also get his family an update. And so we don't know exactly what changed between, Wednesday and Thursday. And he, the senator promises a full update, so we're expecting that at any moment. We talked about some of the opposition to this movement to bring Abrego Garcia back. We saw President Donald Trump talking about this visit on Truth Social, saying that the senator there, Senator Van Hollen, quote, looked like a fool yesterday, begging for attention is how he put it, his words. We saw Attorney General Pam Bondi talking about it, addressing it, talking about how the U.S. would provide a plane for Abrego Garcia to come back to the country should El Salvador allow his release. So kind of putting the ball in El Salvador's court. And we frankly saw the White House talking about how efforts to bring this man back were, in their words, quote, disgusting. And so it's really a very contentious topic here. There, Carlene has brought up that Truth Social post from the president. So really, there are some very diverse opinions about, not only the situation itself, but the efforts underway to bring conclusions to this case. So there you can see President Trump's post on Truth Social, as we talked about, saying that the senator of Maryland looked like a fool going to El Salvador, begging for attention. On the other hand, we're seeing, folks commenting on Van Hollen's accounts, cheering him on. And we talked about how the family of Mr. Abrego Garcia said that this visit gave them hope. And I'd actually heard that there might have been other lawmakers who were interested in trying to go there as well to El Salvador to try to get some answers. I know we're kind of in the process of waiting for this window to open up. So I'm going to just briefly check in with our producer, Carlene, to see what the status is, because I know we're getting over the window. We're also getting close to our evening news, which we got a lot of updates coming for folks.
We can, why don't we do a weather with Chris, since it's going to be a holiday weekend, and if the shot pops up, we'll interrupt and go there.
Yeah. Not uncommon, folks, here to see some of these live feeds either be delayed. Sometimes they pop up early. Sometimes they cut off in the middle. Just a reminder, we don't have any control over the feeds themselves other than us bringing them in and to you here on Live Impact News. So as soon as that pops up, we'll bring that to you. And of course, we'll have the very latest for you on the news on WCNC Plus, which should be coming up in just a couple of minutes. We talked about it being Holy Week leading up to Easter. We know that folks usually do the Easter egg hunts or the egg rolls, or maybe you do sunrise service if you like to get outdoors and enjoy nature and also celebrate. So we wanted to give folks an idea of what they can expect this weekend on the weather front. So here's.
Do you have a shot? I'll put it in the bottom of the screen, and once the presser starts, you'll.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. All right. Meantime, let's send you over to a quick look at the forecast.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm meteorologist Chris Mulcahy, and who's ready for a warm weekend? It's going to be fantastic today. 84 degrees, much warmer than we were about 24 hours ago. Temperatures in the mid 80s, a 10-degree upgrade. It's feeling more actually like early June, and it's warm throughout, even 72 degrees up in Boone. If you go to the night's game, well, it's going to be perfectly dry. Even by the end of the game, the fireworks are going off. Temperatures still in the lower 70s, dry throughout. We'll be a little bit breezy from time to time. Lows overnight tonight will have about a 5 to 10 mile per hour wind, only dropping down to about 60 degrees, so well above the climatological average by about 10 degrees, and then still the lower 50s up in the high country. Low temperatures over the next 10 days, we have 60 to 66, and then we're up and down, up and down. They don't move too much, especially next week, as we have more cloud cover that starts to move on in. And then tomorrow, high temperatures are going to be around 87 to 88 degrees. This is going to keep things really close to the record that we have going forward. So the warmest temperature we've had so far, 88 degrees. As we continue throughout the rest of the week, temperatures are going to come down a little bit. So I think really it's going to be a near tie on Sunday, Easter Sunday to Saturday. I think we're going to be a little bit closer to about that 88 degree point for the Charlotte area. So here's how close we are going to be to that record. The record 89, likely not going to be hit, but hey, close enough. Near record breaking high on Saturday. For your Easter Sunday, you are expecting those temperatures to meander into the mid 80s by the middle of the afternoon. I think overall it's going to be a mostly cloudy day. You might have some peeps of sunshine as you work your way through the day, but all in all, I think the clouds are going to win out for our main cloud cover. So nothing too sweet as far as the views, but temperatures, well, they're fantastic. As far as our rainfall chances go, we're really going specific here. You can see that we have a scattered rain chance heading through Tuesday and Wednesday, and then on Thursday, that's where things really start to ramp up. So here's the changes that we're looking at. We have a cold front that starts to push into the area, I would say late on Monday night heading into Tuesday. That's where I think we're going to cloud things up even more. Definitely going to have more clouds than sunshine going forward, and that's why today is actually the most sun-filled day that we're going to have over the next 7, because we head into an active pattern. This cold front is going to slow down once it reaches the Carolinas. That could bring some widespread rain for your Tuesday, but then it starts to exhaust itself. So as long as this is a frontal boundary here and it's being fed moisture, what's likely going to happen is we have showers pop up during the afternoon. Some could trigger some thunderstorms because we're warm enough, and then they start to die out during the evening, and then we rinse and repeat. Do that again on Wednesday, even a chance for some thunderstorms. But what we're looking at going forward is if this front turns into a stationary front, meaning that it pretty much just parks itself over the Carolinas, we could be seeing days of rain. So we're not looking at any long-range models saying this is a flood threat, something that we're certainly watching closely, where we desperately need the rain because our drought monitor came out yesterday and most of our area here in Charlotte under a moderate drought status, which is level 1 of an official drought. As for the atmospheric moisture, it's not really here this weekend. Could feel a little bit sticky in the mornings, but actually starts feeling more humid once you reach the middle of the week. I think that's going to be better storm fuel and rain potential. That's one thing that's going to kick those rain totals down overall is the amount of moisture. So we're feeling great for the time being, but we will be using words like feeling humid again by the back end of the forecast. So our Guy Roofing 7-day forecast has temperatures in the mid to the upper 80s both days this weekend. Cloudier skies for your Easter Sunday. After that, mixed clouds and sunshine before clouds start to take over on Monday. And then you can see those temperatures leveling out to either side of 80 degrees through the middle of the week, with right now the best chance for rain this coming Thursday. Happy Easter weekend, everyone. Take care and enjoy.
So we appreciate there that look far into next week, potentially looking at some rain that might be coming to our area there. So, of course, we are keeping an eye on any sort of weather impacts and what they could have on that wildfire that's been burning in McDowell County. Once again, that is up to more than 800 acres, 10% containment. We know that 180 fire personnel have been out there trying to not only get the containment up, but also protect structures in the area. And so we know any sort of weather positives that they can get here, they will certainly take that. Winds have not particularly been a friend lately, dryness particularly not being a friend, but we know that rain, while, our Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich will always say, won't put the fire out. We always hear him talking about that. It certainly can help conditions and at the very least prevent things, in some cases from getting worse than they are. So, of course, more on that to come as we go on throughout the evening. We'll just advise you to keep it here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Typically, as we get around the 5-6 o'clock hour, we get some pretty big updates from McDowell County Emergency Management, so we will be on the lookout for those, and of course we'll pass those along to you. Meantime, we did want to get you a quick update here to this crash scene that we've been following out in Gaston County, and so you can see with this look at the conditions and the backups, looks like we still have some delays in this area. If you're just joining us, this is a crash that came onto our radar around 2 o'clock this afternoon. This is 85 northbound, mile marker 19. There was a crash there that at one point had closed 2 of the 4 lanes. And the good news here is we are seeing most of those lanes reopening. We've got the shoulder that is still blocked, so we know that's still going to cause some issues, not only for folks who are slowing down to take a look, but also, and we would totally advise this too, folks who are slowing down as they pass the scene. And I say I would advise it just because there is a move over law in the state of North Carolina, meaning if you're passing in that lane that's closest to the shoulder where you might see emergency crews out there working, just to keep them safe, you either want to slow down substantially below the speed limit, or you do want to move over at least one lane to give them some space, because we don't want to have any further issues. And of course, we don't want anyone to get hurt. An additional detail that we can give you as well, it sounds like authorities are reporting that this is a boat that came off of its trailer. So that's a different scene. We don't always see that. We do know that it's getting warmer and warmer, so